Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to our special council meeting of March 22nd. This meeting has been scheduled to deal with our community grants program specifically. It's been brought to my attention that some of the Category A recipients under the former program are here this evening to present. If that's the case, you actually don't need to present because all of them have been determined line items and have been confirmed already in this year's budget. So all that we're requiring presentations for this year are the ones that were submitted, applications submitted under the new grant policy that had the March 15th deadline, and then we'll be hearing from those groups this evening. So was there anyone here with a Category A grant that felt that they needed to present? Okay. If you are, then you may stay for a bit, but otherwise you're not on the agenda because you don't need to be. All of that's been confirmed. So I understand that there is the item for the Sooke Community Choir Society will be moved to the end. I believe there's a event that the group is at today. So, Council, I'll be looking for approval of the agenda with the inclusion of the new supplementary items and to move 5.1M to the very end. So that's moved by Councillor Loggins and second by Councillor Ray. Any questions from Council on that? Seeing none, all those in favour, opposed, motion's carried. I do wish to take a moment to thank all of you for submitting the applications and also for the work and the contributions that you make in our community every day. Sooke is proudly known as the volunteer capital of Canada, and we certainly wouldn't be here without all of your best efforts. So thank you so much for your time and all your contributions. So the way that we'll do this is there's 5 minutes allotted for each delegation or for each group. And when you come up, you just need to turn on the microphone, and there is a timer that will count down the time. And then when the 5 minutes is up, I will be turning off your microphone. We have 18, and I don't mean to be rude while I'm doing it. It's just we have 18 presentations to get through. We'd like to get through them all this evening. Council will have questions as well. And then there's time for deliberation. So it's very important that you stay on time, and when I turn off your microphone, that's it. So I don't mean to come across as rude. It's just in the essence of getting through the business of the day. Council may have some questions for you, or it may already be answered within the information that you provided. And then if you can, just clarify the amount that you are requesting. Sometimes there's a bit of confusion, or you may have been successful getting grants from other items, and that way we can just get through everything as best as we can. So any questions from councillors on our lay of the land and our policy? Anything? We're just ready to go. Anyone have anything? See none? Anything from staff? Mr. Joseph?
Your Worship, you do have a public comment section on your agenda as per our procedural bylaw. Right. Council can also move that to the end if you so wish. Because you'll already have people speaking on items. It's up to you.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll call for any public comment now, but if you are speaking about your application, then just wait for that time period to come up, please. So I'll just open it up to any members of the public that may have questions. In this case, there's 2 minutes, and we just require your name, address, and which particular item. Call for a second time. Seeing none? Okay, we'll move into our presentations then. And our first one is an application from Meals on Wheels.
Thank you for considering our presentation. I'd like to give you a brief introduction to Meals on Wheels, what we do, and how we do it. Sooke Meals on Wheels began 45 years ago in 1972 with an average client number of 12 people. It was designed to help the elderly, infirm, and those recuperating from a hospital stay. The meal concept of a 3-course dinner of meat or fish or 2 or 3 vegetables, soup with a bun, dessert, and sometimes a salad remains the same. The only real change is the increased number of clients. All the meals are still freshly made. We have 56 volunteers, 2 who buy the bulk of the food, and the rest of us cook and deliver food on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Frozen meals are available for the remainder of the week. There are 7 different teams, each working every second week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, every week of the year. A team leader who is responsible for the main portion of the meal arrives at the community hall kitchen around 8:30 a.m. to begin prepping, followed shortly by several volunteers to help prepare the meal. We cook until about 11 in the morning, when we dish out the meals, then place them into insulated bags for the 2 delivery routes. Drivers go in pairs for security and safety and take about 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on the number of meals to be delivered. Meanwhile, the kitchen is cleaned, pots and scrubbed, dishes washed, and all counters made spick and span. There is no stoppage for statutory holidays. We make a special Christmas dinner with the annual edition of a poinsettia and card from the Sooke Harbourside Lions. And this year, a pair of homemade socks for each client was made by one of our team members. 23 pairs of socks in all. We prepare, cook, and deliver approximately 4,800 meals every year. Some of our clients are essentially shut-ins who look forward to our visits and a friendly face. Often this is the only visit of the week. These visits also give us an opportunity to see that all is well. Our meals enable people to stay at home. They provide healthy, nourishing, well-balanced food delivered to the door by noon for the small cost of $5. At this time, we provide hot food or up to approximately 30 people a week, with additional frozen meals sent out when needed. If a client takes a meal every day, the total cost would only be approximately $140 a month. Most find the quality of food so large that it satisfies both lunch and supper with only breakfast to consider. We are a not-for-profit society, and in the past have been completely independent financially. We are the only community-based Meals on Wheels where everything from bookwork to cooking to delivery is done entirely by volunteers. With the increased cost of the meals, in particular the meat portion, we find that we run at a loss and have done so for several years now, losing approximately $3,000 a year. We also pay for insurances, own and maintain 3 upright freezers and a fridge, and pay a stipend of $500 to the Community Association for the use of the kitchen. Occasionally, we get some small money donations. Local stores provide the buns, the food bank passes along to us quantities of large amounts of dry goods and canned food, and in the summer, garden excesses often come our way, all of which we are very grateful for. We also have changed our packaging from Styrofoam to an eco-friendly paper product, which has increased our costs. We are unique with what we do, and it is a fine and well-appreciated service for the elderly and those confined at home in our community. It would be unfortunate to see it dissolve due to insufficient funding. We are very hesitant to increase the cost per meal. If we were able to keep it at a reasonable price, it would allow those with limited incomes to access it and to keep themselves in the comfort and familiarity of their own homes. We're asking for $5,000. Thank you so very much for listening to our presentation and considering our application for funding. I can assure you that it would be very much appreciated by our organization and those we help. I also have a meal that I brought to show you what it looks like, and this is what we cooked today. Can I show that to you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
The only thing missing is the bun. Okay. So this is typical, and this is what it looks like.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for the service that you're providing to our community. We thank all your volunteers as well. Questions from Council. Councillor Ray, please.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. Just to confirm, you've never received any funding from the District of Sooke?
From the community?
No, from the District of Sooke. Thank you very much.
Councillor Loggins.
Thank you for the presentation. I love that you have so many dedicated volunteers that work so many days per week and so many hours. It's really a blessing to have that in this community. And I always hear about the great service and great food. I also really like that it enables people to stay home, because that's a needed service that I don't know if anyone else takes care of in this community, as well as Meals on Wheels. My concern is that you're running at a loss year after year, and that we would be funding a loss. I'm concerned about that because of sustainability in that organization, because I'd obviously love to have you guys stick around.
Yeah.
I need, in order to feel comfortable funding a deficit, I would need to know what the plans are to work out of that deficit.
What's the plan to get out of it? Well, one option is to raise the price, which is the option we don't want, but we may have to. Probably if it was up at $6, we would be fine. But our costs are not going to change. We still have to look after our freezers. We still have to buy our containers. We still have to do all this sort of thing. The only other thing I can think of is maybe we access larger corporations and do some funding that way. I don't think we have a lot of energy to do garage sales and things like that because we're all pretty busy. We're just starting here to see what will happen. It would be a shame to lose this for people in our community. It's been going for so long. But I understand your concern.
Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. And in looking at your grant application through your financials, it shows that without the grant from the District of Sooke, you'd be at a loss of $26,96.71 for this coming year. So when I look at your revenue, some people always fill their grant applications out differently.
Yeah.
Some people put in like a pending mark and they include that the district grants should you get it. So I just want to be clear that I'm understanding your financials properly. If you got the full 5,000, then you would end with a surplus of 2,300.
If we got the full 5,000, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I understood that properly, that you're...
We have funds. It's just they're diminishing so quickly.
Right.
And we're just concerned that we'll wait too late and we can't do much about it then.
Right. So the 2696.71 would put you at a complete balanced budget with no deficit and no surplus.
Yes, probably.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from members of council? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next project or our next presentation would be from the EMCS Student Art Bus Shelter Program.
Hi, it's red, is it still on? Okay. Hi. Thank you for entertaining our application again this year. For those of you who aren't familiar with the history of the bus shelter, we're going on 9 years now that we have provided student art into the bus shelters. Originally, there were steel structures that had no wind protection, and in partnership with Edward Milne Community School, the District of Sooke, Sooke Glass, and myself, we created our original version that housed student art and prevented the vandalism of all of the shelters at that time. We've had 3 different versions now, and as you're all well aware, since the roundabout we have new BC Transit shelters. And my understanding is that although BC Transit installed them, they are now the property of the district, and the district is responsible for maintaining them. In partnership with Laura Byrne in the Parks Department, she has since our original installation installed additional frames. And in the course of conversations with her, we entertained the idea that those shelters that were close to elementary schools might be partnered with those elementary schools so that we would have that youth art spread even further throughout the community. And I was delighted today when I drove by the shelters at Cicinos that there's some wonderful line drawings of elementary robots in the shelters there. When I originated or initiated this project, it was to have students provide a solution to an ongoing vandalism problem, and it was perceived as a solution provided by youth when there had been a perception that the vandalism was caused by youth. And it turned out to be a catalyst for other people becoming interested in art in bus shelters. Brenda Parkinson subsequently installed professionally produced art in the other metal shelters that are at the end of Grant Road, for instance. And since then, the doctor's office and the physiotherapy office also host student art. Sooke Fine Arts, I'd just like to say publicly that we owe a great debt of gratitude to them, more particularly Linda Tanek and Bob Tully, for creating youth art opportunities in the bistro. And what happens in my having overseen this for that length of time is that students who started out in the bus shelter and then were graduated to the Sooke Fine Arts bistro section are now applying as independent artists, regardless of their age, into the main stage of the Sooke Fine Arts and are selling their pieces and gaining awards. So it's very gratifying for me, having advocated for student art. Our most recent student art project, if you haven't seen it, is the 20th anniversary mural along the front of the high school that was generated by myself, but it included 17 alumni. So kids who had had art in the bus shelter and Sooke Fine Arts now have a panel in the mural on the front of the building. So it's been a bit of a catalyst. It's ongoing. Laura Byrne has graciously ordered some new plastic inserts because in order to mount the art and put it into the bus shelters, there needs to be a plastic insert. So all of the bus shelters will have student art in them when those inserts arrive. The monies that we request from the district each year are matched by School District 62, more particularly the EMCS Art Department, in order to purchase the canvas and acrylic paints that are required for art going into an outdoor installation. We're an ongoing project. I no longer work in the capacity that I did at the school that had me in the art room and hands-on with the students every day, but I continue to maintain and oversee the project.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Questions from councillors. Councillor Ray, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and thanks. Nice to see you again.
Hi.
I just see on the application form it's showing the grant year is 2016, but you've been before the community grants yearly.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, just for clarification.
Yeah,
Thank you.
there has been talk in the past of whether to make it a line item. There's never been a decision made in that regard, and we weren't sure how the new guidelines would apply to this particular situation, so I seek your advice.
Other members of council? Councillor Loggins?
Thanks for the presentation. I love this project because it's empowering for our youth in Sooke, and we don't have enough of those, especially in the field of arts. So it's really nice to see that. I like that the program has expanded over the years to include many bus shelters and many schools, and that it's cheaper than replacing the broken glass. Thank you very much. I would entertain discussing a line item, definitely.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next...
Your Worship?
Yes.
If I may, through you, just to the applicants, just to remind them that when they come to the podium to state their name.
Okay.
Just because it is being recorded and the audience out there might not know who you are. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, our next item is the Sooke Elderly Citizens Housing Society, please.
Push that. There. I'm on. Okay, thank you very much for giving us, all of us here today, the opportunity to come and speak to you regarding the grant applications that we've made on behalf of our organizations. My name is Sandy Pednault. I'm chair of Sooke Elderly Citizens Housing Society, who own and operate Air Manor. My presentation on behalf of the society here is not for an event. It's actually an investment in Air Manor, and there's two parts to it. One would be the gardens for the residents, and the second part is our parking area. So we have put in a request for $4,000, and what we have proposed is regarding the gardens, 2 years ago, from donation money, we fenced the garden at a cost of $1,800. And we have, there's a pile of lumber was delivered today, donated at a cost of around $200. We also worked into our application volunteer time, although we're not paid for that. I understand that it can have some bearing on our presentation. There's some mulch at $100 and cement barriers that we have donated, but it costs $500 to have them delivered. Then the second part is the parking. And just to fill you in, the 1st of March, we opened 2 hospice beds. Unfortunately, we've lost 2 complex care beds in order to have the hospice beds, but both are full at the moment, so it's proving to be a need. Along with that, our parking has become a problem. We never realized we got a lot more visitors. We've had training programs going on, and we increased the parking up onto the top of the hill a couple of years ago, but now we'd like to add about another dozen spaces. And in order to do that, it's the cost of the upper parking machine work and gravel at about $2,500, and cement barriers that I mentioned that will be delivered for $500. I think that it's become quite clear that we need to think about other things, I guess, for our organization, but we have funding for operating from BC Housing and from Vancouver Island Health. So anything else that we do or want to take part in is donation or money that's comes from fundraising. So that's my presentation. We're putting up, we feel $4,500 worth of our time and what we have invested already, and asking for a further $4,000. So any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Pednault. Questions from councillors? Councillor Loggins, please.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm a bit confused by the budget. Thank you. That way I can look up.
I can hear you.
It shows the revenues. The District of Sooke is not listed in there, and the total $4,560, and then it shows the expenses to be less than those revenues, which I assume some are in kind, if not all. So I'm just wondering.
The budget template that we've put in, is that what you're meaning?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we worked in under the revenue column is the cost that we've put towards the fence and donations, and then going down to the other part where the expenses are. Those are things that we are looking to help to be paid with. The greenhouse, small greenhouse at Home Hardware for $225, a lean-to tool shed for $450. Delivered soil, $500, and the upper parking machine work and cement barriers, and that totals $4,175.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this budget a bit. So these are all of the ones listed under revenues are not actually cash in hand; they're actually in-kind services. Is that correct? So they should have another item down in expenses that wipes that out. To zero it out. So then your true expenses would be the $4,175?
Yes.
So you're looking for $4,000 to cover the full expenses of the entire project?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ray?
Yes, thank you. Just so you've actually got 2 projects in this.
Yeah, they're
right?
intertwined because the parking is right along the south fence of the garden, and by putting the parking in, we can also help alleviate the ups and downs of the trail into the garden. So we want to put a proper park, a walkway for the residents.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from members of council? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Pednault. Okay, our next presenter would be the Sooke Fall Fair Association.
Hello, thank you. Ellen Lures and Stan Butler and Steve Lawrence are directors of the Sooke Fall Fair, and I'm the president. This is our 104th year of the Sooke Fall Fair. These are, what you see before you is what was presented to the BC Fairs. There's 5 awards given out at the BC Fairs, and Sooke Fall Fair came home with 3 of the awards, just to let you know that we are an award-winning fair. This isn't our first award. We've had many, and we also won an award for sustainability at the Chamber of Commerce last year. What we're showing here is in one of these. This shows initiative and fundraising. We had a car show last year, which was really a big event. It ended up being bigger than what we thought. We ran out of everything. This shows the community involvement, community engagement, and what we're asking for is money for tents for the Sooke Fall Fair. Our fair has grown so much, and we now have a lot of large animals, and it's just getting bigger. We did get tents before. I think it was the year before last we got tents, but we went at the $100 tents, and the tents unfortunately blew away and broke up, and it was not a good investment. We're pretty thrifty with our money. Last year we did have a good year, so we spent more. We bought enough ribbons and rosettes for 4 years. We also had extra expenses as far as having to get traffic control people to manage the roads, which is the expense we don't usually have. We'll change that this year, so it shouldn't be down. But what we're asking for here is tents, because we need larger tents to put over top of the large animals, because we had tarps on them, and the tarps blowing in the wind, it scared some of the animals, and sometimes the tarps would rip off. So we want to put proper tents up, and also use the tents for the car show and for other events. We go to Canada Day, we go to Shirley Days, and we need tents that are easier to put up, a pop-up tent. Some of the people that have shared things that the Fall Fair have, I'm going to just list off some of the things, because we will share these tents with other people in the community, like we share a lot of our things. The Sooke Food Bank has benefited from the Fall Fair, Sooke Family Resource Center, community, a Sooke Garden Club, Sooke Philharmonic, Sooke Community Association, Sooke Community Choir, Sooke Region Volunteer Center, Sooke Region Chi, Sooke Region Museum, Sooke Soccer, Sooke Meals on Wheels. When we have extra food, we always give to Meals on Wheels. Sooke Cadets, Sooke Girls Guides and the Boy Scouts, Sooke Lions, Sooke Harborside Lions, and Barrowware are some of the groups that share that we share our resources with. We have lattice work, we have tablecloths, even weddings, craft fairs. We also, many of the craft fairs borrow things from the Fall Fair. So when you give things to the Fall Fair, we use them, we'll let everybody use them. Our last application was in 2013, and it was for a trophy cupboard, because a trophy, we didn't have enough room in our trophy cupboard to put the trophies, so we had a trophy cupboard built. But now that trophy cupboard's too small, and people are donating trophies, and it all gets a little crazy, but we'll figure that out. We're not there yet. They'll be hidden for a bit. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. We also, as well as these awards, we also received a Youth Volunteer of the Year award for a lovely young lady in Sooke, Kiana Swift. And this year, our theme is Something's Fishy at the Sooke Fall Fair. Is there any questions?
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Lures. The Fall Fair is always an event to look forward to, so thank you very much for all of the energy and enthusiasm that you've been doing for 100 years. Maybe not yourself, but the organization.
The organization, yes.
Don't make it feel that way.
Although sometimes it feels that way, yes.
All right, questions from members of council. Councillor Loggins.
No question, just wanted to quickly say thank you for the presentation. I appreciate that I know exactly where the funds are going and that they're going to benefit the full community.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, and great displays, and congratulations on your awards
Thank
that
you.
you've received. Okay, our next group, as we're switching over here, would be the Sooke Philharmonic Society, please.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Oh. Soon to follow. We're good? Thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of the Sooke Philharmonic Society's grant application. My name is Diana Jack. My husband and I are relatively new to the Sooke area and attended our first Sooke Philharmonic concert 3 years ago. To be honest, we were not sure what to expect of this local community orchestra. Well, we were blown away by the caliber of the musicians and the performance. We have been attending concerts ever since, and in the process have met many wonderful people, made new friends, and now feel a part of this great community. We are proud to call Sooke home. We are delighted that, in addition to the many other events and activities that take place in Sooke that provide opportunities for the community to come together, we also have several chances each year to listen to great concert music near to where we live and at reasonable prices. This is a special year for Canada with its 150th, and also a special year for the Sooke Philharmonic Orchestra and Chorus, because it is our 20th anniversary. The orchestra and chorus will be performing a special joint celebration concert in June called Harmony by the Sea. The orchestra and chorus is a vital member of the community of Sooke and is a major contributor to our vibrant cultural scene. In closing, I would like to show you a short 3-minute video which I think speaks for itself. Thank you.
It's a little town that's got a great deal to offer if you pay attention and know where to look. It's a town that has an amazing amount of artists of every sort.
He said, we're starting an orchestra. Excellent. Cute little community, you know, half an hour out, you know, 3/4 outside of Victoria, right?
There's got to be something unusual about a town of 10,000 people that has its own little orchestra. Sooke had a reputation for being the backwards, you know. And it's the Wild West out here. It was a logging town. That was the image.
And then we find out all these world-class musicians have been retiring to Sooke.
Before I knew what I did then, there was the nucleus of an orchestra.
It was going to be the Sooke Philharmonic Academy of Music. SPAM. This was the big joke.
And then I came and heard them. And you could always feel everybody in the hall thinking, my God, what is this? And from that moment on, I was sold. You have a group of people who are, you know, at the top of their game. Nothing they do is by the numbers. And who proudly wear the name of Sooke. And the town has got behind them.
Community orchestras are full of these wonderful people who love music and want to play music. And we're the same.
You should join the Sooke Philharmonic and jam with us.
The feeling that I would be accepted at the level that I was extraordinary. It's one of the biggest gifts I've ever been given. I'm not exaggerating.
Norman challenges the orchestra with music that is very rich and oftentimes pushes them perhaps beyond where they thought they would go.
Do it. Come with me. We've got dozens of really talented youngsters going through the music programs at the university. But what are they going to do when they graduate. There simply aren't enough jobs for that many professional musicians. But I see some of them starting to appear in our community orchestras.
Learning music is like a good way of, it kind of teaches you how to learn other things, and it just really helps your brain and how you develop and learn and stuff.
It's fun. It's really fun.
Since it's a community, also like it brings people together.
I think one of the best parts about music is playing it with other people.
You're never bored a lot.
Sorry, that's the time.
Your Worship, since we had a bit of technical start at the beginning, we'll just let it run.
She has to let it go.
And they are still buried today. That's what I want to happen to Sooke.
It's a great video. Thank you very much. I think with the gift that the Philharmonic gives to our community, it sort of shows that Sooke is surprisingly sophisticated, and we go from Stanfields to tuxedo, just like that. Right. Questions from councillors? Councillor Loggins.
Thank you for the presentation. It's really great to see the variety that we've had here tonight, including the video. Looking at the budget, I see that even including our contribution, if we were to provide $5,000, you would still be looking at a deficit of $23.75. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other queries or comments from councillors? Okay, we're good. Thank you very much. Okay, our next item is Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Tate and Council. Thank you for inviting us to speak to you this evening, for this opportunity to speak to our grant. My name is Amelia Potvin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society. The Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society is a nonprofit organization governed by a volunteer board of directors, and since 1995, we've been leading the way to make cycling an attractive commuting choice through education and events. I understand that you reviewed our application, and I thank you for the time to do that. For doing that. So tonight I'm going to try to be brief and speak to a couple of key points on that application, and I welcome any questions that you might have about us or our programs. Bike to Work Week is a free and fun event that invites people to try commuting by bike by creating an inclusive community atmosphere. Since its inception, the Greater Victoria Bike to Work Week is celebrated with over 100,000 cyclists and introduced more than 14,000 new cyclists to commuter cycling. In 2016, Bike to Work Week had 6,454 registered participants and over 5,000 celebration station visits. And together, participants rode over 260,000 kilometers, burned nearly 8 million calories, and averted more than 71,000 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions. So those are some distinct and measurable health and air quality benefits to the greater community that are a result of Bike to Work Week. And participants from Sooke contributed to those overall numbers and positive effects in the community. Roughly 1% of our participants are from the district of Sooke, and at least 5 teams based in Sooke participated in 2016, including a prize-winning team. In fact, my husband got most of his colleagues involved at Wittich Environmental Services, which is right here in Sooke. He was new to the organization and took on the role of team leader. No one had ever participated there before. So taking on the role of team leader means getting people engaged and excited. And most of his colleagues live and work in Sooke, but can regularly commute by car. So he got everyone to bring in their bikes the week before Bike to Work Week and did a bit of a mini tune-up session with everyone, got everyone excited. And most people, for the first time, rode their bikes to work during the week. And that's what Bike to Work Week is all about. It's as much as an exercise in behavior change and breaking old habits and creating new ones as it is in team building and camaraderie in the workplace. And that's the reason behind the team leader model and the successes of Bike to Work Week. And so Ryan really set an example for his team and gave them no excuses because we lived in Gordon Head at the time, so his round-trip commute was about 90 kilometers. So I like sharing that story, but I understand that a 90-kilometer round trip isn't feasible for most people, and so that's why the Society continues to encourage park and ride as a method for people to try commuting by bike that are commuting long distances. And this year we're going one step further by organizing a celebration station right at a West Shore Park and Ride so people can commute in by car and try commuting at least part of the distance by bike just to experience the joy and all the health benefits that Bike to Work Week gives to its participants. So that also highlights another benefit of Bike to Work Week, which is alleviating traffic congestion during peak community hours. You can only imagine what the impact on traffic would be if all 6,454 participants were in single-passenger vehicles doing the Callwood Crawl. So in 2017, we're seeking the support from the District of Sooke to continue to build on the momentum towards commuter cycling and continuing to encourage residents in all areas of Greater Victoria to consider commuting by bike. We've requested $500 from the district, and those funds will go towards organizing celebration stations on the busiest West Shore commuting routes, which are accessed by people commuting to and from Sooke, towards team leader kits, resources, and team leader support. So I thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and for considering our application, and I hope you'll also consider participating in Bike to Work Week and encouraging other people in the community to join you. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, and I appreciate how you're highlighting how users can do segments instead of the whole commute, because that can be quite overwhelming if you're new to commuting, say, to downtown from here. So thank you for considering that.
Yeah.
Questions from members of council? Looks pretty straightforward, so thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, take care. Okay, next up is the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 54, Sooke Branch.
Good evening to Council. My name is Merle Fulton. I'm the Secretary for the Legion. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you with our application. Currently, as it has been seen in the media, we have several large renovation projects that are coming together all at once to create a situation for us, and one of them being the outside of our building, which has not been painted in a very, very long time. And we now have problems with that, with the pointing between those cinder blocks that is letting weather into the building. So to do any renovations inside then is compromised because the outside of the building is not in a good state of repair. So we are currently getting quotes together so that we can alleviate that situation and then work on the interior. We do have a long-term goal that because we have that great big building is to celebrate the history of that building by having murals put on it. But first off, we need to have a really good base, hence why we're looking at painting the building. We are a nonprofit organization. We are run by volunteers. Our executive is all volunteers, myself included. We give our time, some days, hours, other days not as much. Right now, unfortunately, we really are scrambling to try and get these projects together because we are such a supporter of the community, and we are now getting great support from the community back to us. With this particular project, this would be a complete clean and paint on the outside of the building. Because of the scope of this, as much as we would love to be able to get our volunteers to do it, it would be unsafe and it would take a very long time, which then ties up our parking lot, which would impact events coming into our building. So we hope that you would take this under consideration, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fulton. Questions from councillors? Councillor Berger, then Loggins.
Yes, hi, thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering, just looking through your expenses, have you received any quotes yet for how much it would cost for the work, or is it, have you just sort of have a ballpark?
I had attached 3 quotes. They're all running $18,000 to $20,000. We do have some money in the bank, and I have now received word from Director Hicks. We did put an application in that we have $1,000 that will be coming from them once it is approved. So it's slowly getting together, but as I said, due to the grand size of the building, if it was all one level like it is on our sports side, we probably could do it with volunteers. It's the large size that we then have to get a cherry picker. Large ladders would be horrifically unsafe.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Thank
so
you.
we thank you.
Councillor Loggins.
Thank you for coming forward today. I have a few different questions. Let's see here. So the quote for the painting being 18 to 20K, does that include the boom lift as well?
Yes. Yeah, the boom itself is about $3,000.
And so that's what you're showing here. Okay, great. That's when you said 18, I was like, oh no, did it increase? That's good to know. So you'd still be missing a fair chunk. What I'm wondering, though, is the Legion Building Fund.
Yes.
Because you have several projects going on, is this 4,200 dedicated specifically to the painting, or is it? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, this is the first one of many, but this is what we need to get started with, yes.
Perfect. One other question that I have is that our new policies have within them that the project needs to be completed within 365 days of receiving the funding. Is that something that you believe will be able to be accomplished?
I certainly hope so. We do. We're now exploring other avenues for possible grants and such. This is all coming on, of course, very quickly, so lots of balls in the air, and I'm doing as much paperwork as I possibly can around my work schedule. But we definitely would like to have it done this summer, if at all possible.
Perfect. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
Okay, and just to confirm on here where it notes the CRD grant of 500, that's now 1,000 then from Director Hicks?
I've had an email from Director Hicks confirming that they will be forwarding $1,000 to us once it goes through.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Anything else from council? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up is the Sooke Music Festival, please.
Which button? Okay. I'm Peter Jonason. I represent Sooke Music Festival. Your Worship, honorable council members, district staff, thank you for hearing us today. I love Sooke. We all live here because we love it here. I represent the Sooke Music Festival. We are a free, family-friendly music festival. We had a great first festival last year and raised $3,000 for our charities. We gave $2,500 to Hannah Day's family and $500 cash to the food bank, as well as a few boxes of food. We were able to produce this festival last year because of the sponsorship help of many businesses. We also had vendors selling their wares, a bottle drive, some 50-50 draws, silent auction, t-shirt sales, and a donation jar. Of course, our volunteers and the local talent who donated their time are the real heroes here. All in all, a pretty good start to this annual festival. We hope to grow this festival into a destination festival. Right next door, John Phillips Memorial Park, just over here. It will always be a free, family-friendly festival. It will always be a vehicle to raise money for our causes. It will also always feature local talent. We believe that as we expand this festival, it will in turn raise more money for our causes, which is really the end goal here. We want to raise money for good causes and have fun doing it. The people of Sooke want this event. Raising money for the community, from the community, this is why we live here. We need your help making this local festival grow into something awesome. To grow this festival, we need to attract better known local talent. To attract this caliber of talent, we need to pay them. If you can help us pay for the talent, we can cover the operational cost of the festival through our sponsors and vendor support. And together we can raise lots of money for some good local causes. Having the District of Sooke on board will help guarantee the success of this festival. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions from councillors? Do you have a date for the event yet?
August 12th.
August the 12th. Okay. Councillor Loggins?
Thank you for your presentation and for spending the time with us here tonight. I have one question. Are we the only funder aside from your sponsorships?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I'm looking into funding through Creative BC, BC Arts Council, but a lot of those ones you have to be in operation for 2 years to get the funding. So we're hoping that next year we can get that funding. We just have to apply a little earlier.
Anything else? Councillor Ray?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So just to clarify, what you do with the funds that you raise each time is that you then provide grants or help others in need in the community?
Indeed, completely nonprofit.
Okay, but do you sort of save some of that money at all for the next year?
Last year we only saved $612.
And how much did you give away, last year?
$3,000. We'd like to build a fund, obviously, to move forward with, but we got to start small.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up is the Juan Fuca Marine Rescue Society, please.
Thank you. My name is Scott Burchett, and I'm the president of the Juan Fuca Marine Rescue Society. I'm also a proud member of Station 37 here in Sooke for the Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue. I'd like to thank you, Mayor Tate and Council, for allowing us to present to you this evening. We'd like to take this opportunity to tell you more about RCM SAR Station Sooke and what we do. What does RCM SAR Station Sooke do? On average, RCM SAR Station Sooke responds to 35 taskings a year. We are the only dedicated first responders on the water in our area, and our rescue station is located at the bottom of Maple Avenue at the government dock. Our volunteer members are on call 24/7, 365 days a year, and we respond on average within 15 minutes of a call or a tasking. We have approximately 20-plus search and rescue volunteers from all walks of life. Approximately 70% of our taskings occur between Otter Point and Secretary Island and within the Sooke Basin. Who is RCM SAR Station Sooke? We're all volunteers. We are the men and women who choose to call Sooke home, and we all live within 15 to 20 minutes of the station. Our crews come with all different types of backgrounds and experiences. We are fishing charter guides, teachers, Canadian Navy veterans, graphic designers, tradespeople, mothers, fathers, and we do have some grandparents too that have been with us for a while. We are all volunteers who want to give back to the community and help make our water safe. Some of the examples of taskings in our area. Due to the time limitations, I'm only going to give you 3 examples, although there are 4 up here. The first example is RCMP officers in the water off of Billings Spit. 2 RCMP officers enter the water near Billings Spit after a mentally distressed person ends up in the water. Officers swim after the subject, realize that they are far from shore and exhausted, so mild hypothermia starts to set in with the officers. They contact the onshore partners via VHF radio to ask for marine search and rescue assistance, as they cannot make it back quickly or safely. RCM SAR Station Sooke is tasked to locate the 2 RCMP officers in the water. We take them out of the water, assist with them getting the distressed person on our boat. Everyone is taken to the shore for medical treatment and observation. An example of another call was one that I was on early in January this year, and that was a sunken vessel in Cooper's Cove. So we're tasked to investigate a sinking or sunken vessel in Cooper's Cove. We arrive on the scene to see a totally submerged vessel in the water. First of all, we check for any people. We don't see any persons on board, and then we check for any fuel spills or any environmental problems. And of course, we didn't see any. So we then were stood down on our tasking. The third example, there's 9 people in the water off erased rocks. A diving club vessel overturns in the water off erased rocks. We are tasked to recover persons that administer first aid. Crews on scene within 40 minutes from the call from leaving Sooke. With the assistance of RCM SAR Station Sooke, all 9 people are safely recovered and treated for mild hypothermia and taken to the BC Emergency Health Services for observation at a higher level of care. Our station and crew received awards for this mission. How are we funded? Well, we are funded mainly from the BC Gaming Grant. So every year we can apply for up to $100,000, and usually we get about 70% of that money that we ask for. This year our budget for that was $68,000. The Coast Guard, the Canadian Coast Guard partially funds our training and missions with about $6,400 given for that this year, although our fuel costs for the year are approximately $12,000, so there's a big difference there. We get paid out on missions and taskings at $190 an hour for the time that we're on the water. That just barely covers the fuel that we burn when we're on the water, and it doesn't really cover ongoing maintenance. We are also funded by the general public through donations and fundraising activities that we have, and we're hoping for more community support. The breakdown of what we're asking from the District of Sooke is for $7,500. The main goal is to have our dock moorage for our boathouse paid for at the government dock on a yearly basis, $500 for volunteer recognition, recruitment, and retention, and $500 to put in our contingency fund. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Questions from councillors, please. Councillor Ray, please.
Thank you. Just that last screen, I'm just looking at your budget for 2017, and your budget actually shows a net income. I know it's only $20, but it looks like what your revenue is and what your expenses are basically cover one another. The items that were on that last, the moorage, I'm not sure in terms of what you were asking for. Is that over and above what you've already listed here?
The moorage here is listed at $6,500 a year is our cost for moorage.
Right, right. But I guess what I'm looking at is for 2017, what you're expecting to bring in is going to cover your costs. So I'm not sure what the district would offer.
The budget for if you look at the very first line, the $20,000 for Canadian Coast Guard incidents and training, that number varies. That's an average or an approximate of what we're going to be given. We don't know all the revenues coming in because that depends a lot on our taskings. You know, do we get 50 taskings a year? Do we get 35 taskings? And then is it a 1 hour journey, or are we on the water for 4 to 6 hours? So, you know, it is a budget. It's not something concrete. We're very dynamic in how we operate, and our costs are dynamic as well.
Thank you.
Other questions from councillors? Seeing none. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, pardon me, Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I just am looking. Sorry, I was looking at your 2016 actuals, but do you leverage any grant funding through the CRD, Machosen? Because it's my understanding that you work, obviously, you're based out of Sooke, but
I have applied
to the rest is the Campbell Regional District as well.
We have applied to the District of Machosen, and that was due the same date as the District of Sooke. We've also applied with Colwood and Langford as well. But Langford was due in January, so we'll have to apply next year. So we're applying to all the districts that we operate in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is the Juan Fuca Society for Ground Search and Rescue, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Vanderford. I'm the president of the Juan de Fuca Society for Ground Search and Rescue. And what we are is we're the fundraising arm for Juan de Fuca Search and Rescue. So as you might be aware, Juan de Fuca Ground Search and Rescue is the local search and rescue team for the Sooke area. We have approximately 50 active members who volunteer in the East Sooke, and all the way out to Port Renfrew area. Each member puts in approximately 200 hours of volunteer time a year, and this varies from training to call-outs to help find and rescue injured and lost individuals. We're available 24/7, 365 days of the year, and believe me, we've seen every day of the year. We average about 25 to 30 calls annually, either in our own area or to assist across the province in Vancouver Island. And as you also might know, all search and rescue volunteers in BC all search and rescue groups in BC are completely volunteer. Our members receive no remuneration for their activities, and their time is not only donated, but their money as well. All of our gear must be purchased by ourselves. Anything that you'll see a search and rescue member with out in the field, they've purchased with their own money. And in some cases, this can add up to thousands of dollars that they have earmarked to help volunteer for their communities. The mission of our society is to support these community volunteers by equipping them with the essential gear and training that they would otherwise need to purchase themselves, and help to ease the financial burden of being a volunteer. The current project that we're tackling and we're asking for $4,000 for is the purchase of 80 to 90 mid-weight wool shirts with our organization's logo embroidered on them. This sounds extremely dull for a group that often rappels off cliffs and drives ATVs and flies around in helicopters. But as anybody who's hiked in the Sooke area knows, the importance of a mid-weight moisture-wicking layer can't be overstated. The only official branded gear available to our members right now is a Gore-Tex rain jacket and a fleece jacket. They have our logo on them, it says Search and Rescue, and they have reflective striping. Those come at a cost of about $550 per member, and unfortunately they're excellent pieces of equipment, but they're not appropriate for much of the work that we do. Most of our rescues happen at night, as you can well imagine, and a night like tonight would be a perfect example, where it's not too cold enough that you're going to be hiking in a heavy fleece jacket, and it's not warm enough that you're going to be okay in a t-shirt. We're out there in very rough terrain, often carrying people out, and it's very physically demanding. A midweight layer is probably the single most important piece of equipment to manage body temperature. It's essentially a piece of safety equipment for our members. It's something that we say every single member must have. And what's often you're going to be too hot wearing a fleece jacket and you'll overcook yourself, or you'll freeze and become hypothermic and less effective with just a t-shirt on. The problem with these layers is they can often cost $100 a piece, and it places a huge financial burden on our members. On top of buying backpacks, boots, socks, pants, anything else, and all the equipment in their bag, we're also asking them to pay over $100 for a midweight t-shirt. We currently have the opportunity to purchase from a local supplier shirts that are custom made for search and rescue activities for $60 a piece. They're made of quality merino wool and a wicking layer as well. We're seeking money to equip all of our members with a shirt and to have a reserve for future members. Our goals for this are threefold. We obviously want to reduce the cost on our community volunteers, who are already putting forward so much of their time and their money to help serve their community. We want to ensure that our volunteers have good equipment to stay safe and provide the best service to the people that we're assisting out in the woods. You can guarantee that when we tell somebody they need to have a high-quality $100 shirt, there's going to be a certain number of people that are going to cheap out, and they're going to have equipment that's going to make them less safe, and it's going to not help those that we're out to help. And we want to inspire a sense of team and pride in our volunteers. We want to provide them with a uniform shirt with our logo on it so they can feel that they belong to a group. We want to use this to increase retention so we can have more experienced volunteers providing their services to Sooke and communities around. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Can you share with me again how many incidents or how many searches you go out annually?
On average, it averages about 25 to 30.
25 to 30 every year?
Yes.
And any particular season per year?
Winter is the slowest, and other than that, sometimes summer is very busy, as you can imagine, but sometimes spring and fall are also very busy.
It just varies year to year. Okay.
Exactly.
So Councillor Ray, then Councillor Berger, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just a couple of things. The Juan de Fuca, do a lot of the searches that you do, are they more around the district of Sooke, or do they sort of just evenly spread out across the region?
It's a fairly even spread. We do get quite a lot in Sooke. The Sooke Hills are a very busy area for us, and the potholes as well. Hiking areas in there have become very well known in the last few years, so we're seeing a lot more activity out there than we used to. We also cover the Juan de Fuca Trail, but interestingly, Sooke probably keeps us busier than that.
Okay, and a second question. How many members do you currently have?
We have about 50 active members right now.
50 active, okay.
Councillor Berger, then Loggins.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ray shared my concerns. Thanks.
Councillor Loggins, please.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Great presentation. It's always good to get to know the organizations around here that serve us a little bit better. And thank you to all your volunteers. I do want to know if you have any other funders for this, and also I see like the shirts in this budget, but it would have been nice to see the volunteers' entire budget. And so please also remind me how much they are paying for their equipment.
An average entry cost for each volunteer's equipment is probably comes to about $1,000 or so. I mean, my boots alone are about $400. Backpack will run you about $100. Good pants, another $100. And it carries on from there. The budget put forth was just for this project of the shirts. We do have some other finances there. We've been doing a bottle drive for the last 9 or 10 months. We did a Christmas tree chipping fund, and we've had some community donations as well.
Okay. But no other municipalities contacted? No. Okay. And how are the other pieces funded? Are those completely paid for by volunteers, or do you have other
the main organizational activities are funded through the CRD. So they help, we get a fund from there to pay the rent, keep the heat on, put fuel in the trucks. So all of the shared group equipment that's mandatory to get out into the field is covered through an annual budget. Our society exists to ease the burden directly onto the volunteers with the things that are not covered in the budget.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the work you do. Okay, next up is the DRS Dialogue and Resolution Services, please. Oops.
Hello, Your Worship, councillors. Thanks for listening to us all this evening, and thank you also for the work that you do in your capacity. DRS Dialogue and Resolution Services used to be called Communica Dialogue and Resolution Services. Unfortunately, a company in Vancouver trademarked the word Communica, so we've changed our name. We're an organization that has existed in Victoria for 40 years. In the Victoria area, we serve the CRD, particularly the West Shore and Sooke. We're a volunteer organization. Our board is voluntary. We have a very lean staff of 3 part-time people. It works out to be about 1.75 FTE positions. The services that we provide, however, mediation, arbitration, conflict coaching, and communication education are provided by professionals, people who are committed to providing services in an affordable way through our organization. Mediation, as you probably know, is a system whereby people are able to meet with a neutral third party to create solutions to conflicts that they have that work for them. And under the BC Family Law Act, conflict resolution can only be conducted by professionals. And so it is a professional service that we offer. We're culturally inclusive. We're trauma-informed, which means we're very aware of how to deal with people who are going through trauma, and it's affordable. The services that we offer is a wide range from mediation, different kinds of mediation, offered for full fee. Everything is available for subsidy, and we also offer a number of free mediation services, and it's one of those that we're seeking support for. When we provide conflict management services for everybody, for co-workers, businesses, and neighbors, but our big bulk of work is with families, and particularly around separation and divorce, co-parenting plans, and the division of assets and debts. We do some parent and teen mediation, as well as working increasingly with adult children and aging parents. The supported family mediation service that we created about 1.5 years ago now speaks to the needs of families that have complex conflict needs and very little money. What can happen in a family situation where there is conflict is that children act out, they can suffer developmental delays, they can develop other mental health issues such as anxiety. All family members, their health decreases, depression increases, and of course unresolved conflict builds more conflict. When people have financial pressures as well, that increases these effects. So supported family mediation service, it offers 8 hours of free mediation without a wait list. So if a family is referred to us by a community agency, we can give them this service. And what we deal with is all types of family mediation, family conflict. So it's not just for co-parenting plans, for example, or it's not just for assets and liabilities. What happens is that a family that has low income and complex conflict needs can't get help anywhere else, gets a referral from a community agency, and they're automatically eligible. We work with them to create definite plans that give them greater certainty and reduced stress, and also it helps them to increase their capacity to communicate and problem solve, decreasing family stresses. Over the 2015-16 fiscal year, we provided supported family mediation services to 15 families, 8 of whom are from Sooke, or we're from Sooke, and we would like to help more. And so we're asking for $2,400 to allow us to provide service to 5 additional Sooke families. And that would mean that a total of 13 families could receive service over the next 12 months. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well for the work you do. Questions from councillors. Councillor Ray, please.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering, is the need for your service, and just so you're aware, I worked with the Ministry of Attorney General as a family court counselor, so I used to do the mediation. And what my question is for you today is the need for your service occurring because those services are not being provided any longer by the provincial government, or limited?
Well, for example, the Victoria Justice Access Centre does provide free mediation to families with low income, but only co-parenting plans. So if that poor family happens to have a house or happens to have a bunch of debts that they have to sort out, the Justice Access Centre will not handle that.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions from councillors? Okay. Thank you very
so much.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to welcome up the Sooke Baptist Church, please.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors. We'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. Sooke Grace Gardens. My name is Michael Wilson, and next to me is Olive Crimes. We'd like to talk to you about our overview of our proposal for Sooke Gardens, which is learning to grow fresh, healthy food and helping feed members in our Sooke community and who are at need. So our vision for the gardens is to ensure that the garden is a place of abundance and beauty, that we learn and we pass knowledge on how to grow local, healthy, fresh vegetables, herbs, nuts, and fruits. Offering free, healthy food to helping groups, such as the Food Bank and Transition House and Crisis Center. And what we're looking at, that would be about 50% of our offering, and 50% would be for those individuals within the Sooke community that are in need of healthy food. Also, it's open to everyone in the community to participate, interact, and connect in order to create relationships within the Sooke community. So who's involved? So right now we have about 20 volunteers that meet on a Saturday. We've been doing a lot of planning as well as some pre-building. We have a permaculture advisor for organic growing best practices. We have a representative of the local First Nations. Local farmers that help us with equipment lending, Sooke Baptist Church, which we are allotting a portion of our land for the gardens, and others within the community. Within our gardens, we have some values, and what we are looking at doing is implement permaculture principles, attempting to have the garden become self-sustaining, follow organic growing principles, educating ourselves and our children, practice succession planting in order to use the gardens for much of the year as possible, not to use pesticides, herbicides, or chemically based fertilizers. Use of only non-GMO seeds and plants, attempt to propagate and learn to prepare and enjoy indigenous foods, harvest as much rainwater as possible to use during the summer droughts, and value participation in volunteer effort. So this is just an overview right now of Sooke Baptist Church, and as you see on the right side in the graphic is where our gardens are being located. Our church has had a lot of extra land that hasn't been in use. We have a playground and then a lot of grass, and this is going to take up a mass majority of the right side to use it in terms of something that's fruitful and productive. Here are some pictures of where we're at in terms of progress to date. We have an outside garden perimeter that's already defined by a bed of wood chips laid over a geotech cloth, and we have already formed some raised boxes, as well as one of the key essential components of the gardens is to harvest rainwater naturally. And we have, as you see in the picture on the left, we have already installed some rain barrels, and we have already started to create an environmental watering system. And the big piece is this, is that we want to be able to reuse water rather than have to pay for water for the gardens. Going forward within the gardens over the next few years is to extend and develop the garden to in stages, including protective fences, having a tool shed, compost area, grow many sustainable perennials and herbs and plants, learn with participants and their children on how to prepare foods from our gardens, practice saving our own seeds to use for the following year, learn to grow veggies, fruits in containers, promoting small home gardens, and continue involved experts in the ongoing learning of best organic gardening, as well as utilize organic recyclables and reuse shredded paper from the church to use in the garden. In terms of our budget, our total budget is $17,000. We have spent $3,300 to date. We are asking for $7,000. With that, we do have a remaining fund of $9,225 that we're looking for other grants as well as other donations. All of our work to date, all of our labor has been all volunteer, and we've had some donations of dollars towards the initiative at this point in time. So thank you, Madam Mayor and Sooke councillors, to listen to us about creating our dream of Sooke Grace Gardens.
That's great. Thank you very much. What a beautiful project. I guess the question I have for this year is what sort of protective fencing can you put in place to protect anything this year? Is there something in place?
There's nothing in place at this time, Your Honor, but we are hoping that if we do get the grant of $7,000, that would help us to protect it, because that is one of the most important things for the garden.
Yes. You'll have some visitors, perhaps, that...
We will. We definitely will.
Yeah, so yes. we have priced out the fencing, the posts, that type of thing.
Okay, so that would be included. That's included within this.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank you. Questions? Councillor Loggins, then Berger, then Ray, please.
Perfect. Thank you for coming. It's excellent to see more food initiatives happening in the community, and what an awesome thing to put in that plot of land that's been vacant for so long. So it's great vision that you have there. I was just going to ask about the long-term vision for the project, just out of a bit of curiosity to see what that's going to look like, because you're offering free food. And how will the other expenses be covered for the garden?
Well, we're hoping to get a grant from you, and we hope we will be successful. But the other monies will come in maybe through donations, through the church, which is It is a non-profit organization, and we will try to do some other fundraising in the community.
Councillor Berger, then Ray.
Yes, thank you. Just looking through your budget, I just had a couple of questions with respects to where you're at with your project. So I don't think we have a copy of what your fencing quote was. Do you happen to know what that was? Because if that's something that the funds would be used towards, I'm just curious as to how much of that would eat up that portion of your budget. And then also, while you're looking there, in your slides, I just was trying to look at sort of where you're at. So the rainwater harvesting and management project, you've already got that undergo, like I saw those on the...
That has started over the last couple of weeks.
Okay. And then the perimeter compound, that's...
So the perimeter compound is the cedar fence panels that we're talking about.
Okay.
So I do have a breakdown as a total of $4,800, which we have spent $800 at this point in time.
Okay, so 48 was for cedar fencing.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. And you've spent 8.
So the majority of the cost for the $7,000 would go towards the fencing, as well as expanding the irrigation system.
Okay. So was your total for your rainwater harvesting and your irrigation system, was your total budget $4,000 for that, and you're sort of halfway there? Or I just wanted to
That's correct. Yes.
get a bit of a timeline. So you've already expended how, like?
Oh, so for the rain harvesting, our budget is $4,800, which we have $800 spent at this time.
Okay, so the same as the fence?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ray.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for your presentation. So is the purpose that members of the church will do this garden, and then, or I'm just wondering if...
We have members of the church who are very enthusiastic, but we also have members of the community who have been involved since September in planning stages and who have been there to start some of the boxes that has already been established.
Okay. So has there any thought been given, sort of like the Sun River Community Gardens, where people purchase a plot, and that contributes to supporting the building of the...
No, it's totally different from that. I am a member of the Sun River Garden, but this is not plots that will be owned by the individuals. It will be a program that involves people in teaching them how to garden. And so those who are in need and not able to meet, their food budget might be able to come and help and also get some of the food that is grown there. And we will also teach them how they can grow food in their own yard, if possible.
Thank you.
Councillor Loggins.
Thank you. I just have one more question then, in light of what's been asked already. I'm just curious as to how and why the project was started without the available funding. It kind of puts you in a bit of a tricky position.
We have a number of members who are involved in the food bank, in the crisis center as volunteers. And I've worked for many years with violence against women. And there is needs in these organizations, so we have recognized that as a big need, and we would like to help where there is shortage, plus within our community also. For many people have come to our church out of need, and they cry their burdens to us, and we realize there's a big need. And so we recognize there is land, there's manpower, there is devotion to help. So we have decided that a project like this is needed.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, since the project has already started, what would happen if we didn't provide the funds? What would your plan be?
We'll be stuck without a fence to start, and we will need money to get some more tools and a shed. The manpower is there, but there is shortage of money to start it. Our hope is to start planting in April. We're ready to go, but there is shortage financially.
So if there is a financial shortage, there would be a delay on the start, potentially up to another year, which we would not want to see, because we can see the benefit if we were able to plant the seeds in April, that we'd be able to harvest during the summer.
In fact, this Sunday we have 30 children who will be planting seeds. So we're starting to teach our children what it is like to plant the seed and to see it grow and to help their families.
Thank you very much. Access to healthy foods is important in our community. I was made aware of a young woman who learned how to garden and did container gardening off of her balcony and was able to feed her family fresh produce the whole summer long and didn't need to access the food bank as a result of that. And what a confidence builder to actually harvest something that you grew yourself. So thank you very much for the initiative.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, so speaking on access to healthy foods, the Sooke Food Bank is up next.
Good evening. So I didn't bring a fancy presentation. I barely got my application in. What I'm looking for is I would like to attend the Canadian Food Bank Conference.
You could just get your name, please, Ms. Metzger.
Kim Caldall, President, Food Bank Society. I would like to attend this year, just being that us being a rural food bank, I have a problem accessing things that bigger food banks don't need, like a building. And my only people that I can go to really are food banks that have paid employees. It's a totally different system. I really need to go and connect. Food Banks of BC was just granted $10 million today for fridges and freezers, not for new ones to replace, but to add to. And I'm in a situation where we're not even going to be able to apply because I have no place to put it. So I need to go and learn how to build a building for our food bank, is really what I'm looking for. And that's what I'm going to find out. There's people there that can help us. And that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for all the work you do at the food bank. It's an incredible organization.
Thank you.
Questions from Councillor, please. Anything? Okay.
Okay, and I'd like to invite you guys down. It's been wonderful to have you come down, but we would like to have everybody come down and really check out and see what we do at the food bank. We give tours, and Mike Thomas is always happy to run stats for you.
Great.
Okay,
thank you so much. Comment from Councillor Ray?
Yeah, just I have been down to the food bank at the Christmas. I volunteered
Yeah,
one year for the Christmas.
Yeah,
so I've got a sense
bit
of
different. It's really, it's very eye-opening and interesting when you really come down and see all the organizations we're helping, which right down to Kids in Africa. We have a whole line of stuff through the Compassionate Warehouse that goes out. We have a lot of things going on, and we'd love to have you guys come down and see it.
Okay. And just as a reminder, it's the third Thursday?
The first 3 Thursdays, but tomorrow we're actually doing a special spring bake pancake breakfast in partnership with the Lions for our clients and their kids to come down.
Okay. What time does it start?
9:30 to 11:30.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You can also go on, I went on a Wednesday when there was no clients coming in, so you can, it's
Wednesday morning, if you
Yeah.
want to come without people, and that's always good too. We're there from about 8 till 10:30, and it's quiet, but we're all set up. We can show you everything.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up is the Sooke Bike Club, please.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, everyone, for letting us come and speak today. My name is Siri Bright. I represent the Sooke Bike Club. in Sooke here. We're comprised of all volunteer members, myself and 4 others. Next slide. I can do that, can't I? Perfect. So the bike club in town here has been around for quite a while. We represent riders of all ages. And what I'm basically wanting to share is that our mandate here in Sooke is really about getting people out and riding their bikes. We're not solely a mountain bike club. We're really wanting to get all ages and levels out riding in Sooke. A big part of what we do is collaborate closely with Town Council, with the CRD, and with the Sooke schools to advocate for areas to ride bikes in our community. This includes the bike park, Harbour View Trails, and the Galloping Goose as well, as well as throughout the streets of Sooke. Just this past year, so in 2016, we were a big part in launching Sooke's first bike pump track. This is built, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to see it, but it's just outside the Sea Park, just in Pine Sea Park there. And it's been a place where both expert and beginner riders have been able to come to ride and learn a bit of freestyle with their families. It's actually kind of amazing. It opened up, and the traffic through that area with the trail that has kind of linked up to the middle school has been really, really incredible. I ride my bike through there with my young son quite often. There's a lot of kids that are always on that little pump track. So it's a great place for young and old to gather. So at that same pump track, we also hosted 3 events, one being a maintenance day. Every year, this pump track needs to be maintained, so we get out there with shovels and a group of volunteers and youth that ride the trails as well and make it safe to ride. We also hosted a dirt jam, which was really about getting and introducing people to the pump track. And then we also hosted a skills day where we invited some of the students from the local schools to come down. We gave a bike maintenance lesson, and then we also did a fair amount of coaching on the trails. Okay, so our 2017 goals this coming year is to create a more active and involved Sooke bike community that participates in bike-related events and advocates for a bike-friendly Sooke, encouraging young and old to get outside. I think this is so important in Sooke. I recently moved here and came from a community where it was so bike accessible. You could bike and get your groceries. You could bike from schools, and I think that that's one of the main things that we really, really believe in, as well as doing some of those mountain biking and some of the pump track activities are also really important. So we both kind of sit on both of those ledges. Diversity. So our main goal, I guess, is to encourage all riders of all ages to get out and bike. This coming year, we've been working with local landowners to develop more beginner trail systems. So where the pump track actually sits, the land in behind that, Sea Park has offered to create it as beginner bike trails. So not just a pump track, but actually trails that move through to be able, really in Sooke, there really isn't a place where intermediate and beginner bikers can go to practice skills that's safe and legal. So that's one thing that we really want to encourage, is a place where families and bikers can go to gain some of those skills. So some of the things that we're asking for are investing in some of the infrastructure, which includes things like signage, benches, and tools. This would also include the hiring of a designer and a lead trail builder to consult in creating safe trails through that system, as well as host maintenance days and school bike days for some of those young riders. So yeah, one of the things that I actually wrote in the application is that I didn't include in the application, I should say, is we're hoping to also run a few fundraising events like ride-in movie theaters that I didn't put on the application, so that would kind of fill. I noticed there is a little bit of a gap in the budget. That's where the rest of that would come.
Okay. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
the presentation and for the slideshow. Questions from members of council? It's great to see beginner trails going up there because I think it's a very important element to learn in a safe place.
Totally.
Councillor Ray, please.
Yes, thank you. And I just note, doing some numbers here, I came up with some different numbers than what was on your application form. I found that your expenses were actually at $4,634.52.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so actually the difference between your expenses and your net income is actually just $1,434. So
You're
just
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. I apologize for
No
that.
worries.
I think I sent in the wrong application that I'd saved. So I
Thanks.
apologize.
Anything else? Councillor Loggins, please.
Perfect. Thanks for the presentation. It's actually really exciting to see so many biking initiatives happening in our community. I know that the bike club's been seen as a special interest group by this council in the past, and I don't think that projects like this actually are, because they are teaching young children how to be confident on their bikes, and that's exactly what we need to get them riding those bikes around the town as adults and getting to and from. And one thing that having been working with other West Shore communities recently, one thing that I've discovered is that Sooke is one of the most well-connected in terms of biking trails, and we need to keep up with that because it's so important. So thank you for that. Sorry about the ramble. One question I do have, am I right to say that Sea Park has offered the land to the bike club, or are they...
No. So we're working in collaboration with Sea Park. Okay. Exactly how it's going to roll out is still we're just getting the conversations going. But that land has been designated to basically be built out. So the grant money would be in collaboration with what Sea Park also comes up with. So it's not just our money. We're basically trying to support them in manifesting the project for the community, if that makes sense.
It does, yes. So yeah. I'm wondering then if the fees for the bike track in the future, those would be collected by Sea Park and not the bike
You're
club?
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else from council? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, next up is the Sooke Harbour Players Society, please.
Turn this on. It's on. Right, just checking.
Good evening.
Good evening, Council. The Sooke Harbour Players Society is a local not-for-profit organization that puts on 2 performances a year, in the spring and in the fall, with each year's full performance being a musical with a cast of up to 40 actors and actresses of all ages, and up to 50 volunteers on and off the stage. You know, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to turn the microphone over. I'm just recovering from a lung condition, and I think it's too much for me to read. So I'll be the brains, and you go ahead and talk. All right.
That's what we need you here for.
Yeah.
Good evening. Yeah, we're starting off our productions this year with an old coward play, Blithe Spirit, which is only a cast of 7, but it does take quite a lot of putting together and putting on stage. And we had a successful run with Annie in the fall. Although it was successful in terms of staging, it did make a little bit of a loss. And the losses that it made were due in part to the costs incurred, the renting of the venue, the EMCS. But we're not deterred by that. We will continue to put on shows within the theatre for the coming year. The fall show is going to be Oliver Twist, which is a cast of about 40 people on the stage and about 30 to 50 people running around and helping and all that sort of thing. It's no mean feat really to put on these shows, and we do try to put on the most professional show possible. So we're asking if you would consider giving us a grant of about $6,000 in order to help with the production costs. We like to encourage young people in the theatre, and we would also like to sponsor some young children learning how to use the technical side of the equipment, such as the sound and the lighting. I understand Your Honour has also been treading the boards in recent years as Mayor of Munchkin. So you'll know from experience what's involved with putting these shows together. There's not much more I can really say about it. We just need to try and make more of an inroad into profit and putting, as I like to say, bums on seats through perhaps in future reducing the costs of the seats so that we can encourage more younger people to be involved, because as I understand last autumn's production, the tickets were quite costly at $20 for everyone, and we would like to bring it down to a $15 range. Perhaps we have introduced a $15 ticket for under 15s and a free ticket for under 13s this year for the spring show, and hope to do the same for the fall.
Plus the family rate.
Yeah, there will be a family ticket as well, which
and
we're
seniors.
Yeah,
And seniors.
and seniors.
Okay.
So there's not much more I can say really. We just have come with a begging bowl, like Oliver Twist would say. Please, may we have some more? Thank you very much for your time.
Actually, if I can throw one more thing in, one of the areas where we are seeing a really significant rise in costs is in venue rentals. And in recent years, we're spending upward of $6,500 a performance for venue rental. And this is really causing a crunch in our budgets. I mean, we anticipate on the bigger projects, we spend around $5,000 on rights and licenses. But the venue rental is really making inroads on our cash flow. And something that we always have to take into consideration is we have overhead costs with the society. We have a rental location, we have insurance that we have to pay. So each performance has to contribute in part as well to that overhead maintenance. So anyway,
yeah,
I managed to get that out.
Thank you.
No, that's great. Thank you for that added comment about the overhead. Yes, I was in the Wizard of Oz musical production as the mayor of Munchkin City. And yeah, it was an extraordinary performance just to see all the kids mentoring each other and encouraging each other backstage was something that you didn't see when the performance was on, but it's something that I was grateful and honored to witness behind the scene. Questions from councillors. Councillors Ray, please, followed by Loggins.
This is more of a comment. Well, actually a question. The $6,000 for the theater, that is for coverage for what?
It's the rental for the week of the production, or the running of the production,
right? And
the rehearsal time. Mostly, it's down to custodial fees, which are added onto the fees for the hire of the hall, and that's usually caused by having to have the janitors come in after hours on overtime, and that is passed then down to us.
Okay, and I mean, and this is where the comment comes in. I thought I've heard at this table that when the school was originally built with the theater was supposed to be something for the community. So I find it interesting, and I don't know the history, so pardon me, I didn't go out and sort of research that. But I think, when we're trying to provide productions and information and culture and arts and all of that, I'm a little distressed if the school district is making money. If it's to pay $6,000 to pay custodial staff, that seems quite a lot. But I think it wouldn't hurt for the district to inquire with the school district just to see, how did it start? Because things morph over time. Sort of it may not have been the policy, but then there's been this best practice, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'd really like to know how it originally came together for that community school and the theater, unless somebody at the table knows.
No, Councillor Ray, that I've heard that as well, and I don't know where, I'm not aware if any inquiry has been done or where it's been left off, but that my understanding was the same as yours, and that it's a community-based theater for the community, and then things have shifted a bit. Councillor Loggins?
Thanks, and I can speak to that briefly, but I should. If I do have one question first, just to confirm: is the district's funding of $6,000 going directly towards the theatre? Is it going to different pieces of the budget?
The breakdown in the application was that we were looking for funds to augment or to help reduce the cost of sound and lighting equipment, which is one of our biggest concerns because of the high technical obsolescence factor. Things are almost obsolete, within 1 year of buying it. And so we're constantly having to upgrade and maintain equipment and looking for small contributions to set designs, props, and costumes, and a $2,000 contribution to the venue.
Okay, perfect. Just because I could not be part of the discussion if it was going towards a theater rental. And I also have a follow-up question to the lighting. I believe we provided lighting or funding for lighting in the past, and I just wanted to know, and maybe you touched on it, but is that something we you have to replenish every year?
It is something, not necessarily every year, but sometimes the equipment fails through no fault of our own. Bulbs failing or the item itself burning out and needs to be replaced.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up on what Councillor Ray and Mayor Tate were asking, in terms of the custodial, SD62's hands are tied based on QP regulations. So, yeah.
No, thank you. But it just seems $6,000 is a lot of money for custodial cleanup. So.
Councillor Berger, please.
Yes, thank you. And I agree with what both of you are saying. I mean, for 1 week's payment, that's, $850 or $860 a day. So that seems quite a bit for custodial. You know what I mean? $850 per day is an awful lot of money.
We do use the venue on a Sunday, and usually it's the Sunday rehearsals that cause the increase in the rental for rehearsal time. Because then having 40 or 50 people at rehearsal, there has to be a cleanup. So they do have to call out the janitors or whatever to clean up.
Right. So I have just a quick question on looking at your budget here. So for sound and lighting, included in your rental of the theatre, are you allowed to use their sound and lighting?
They don't generally have sound equipment. The school has sound equipment, which they use for the education of the children on stagecraft. But generally speaking, it's not available to outsiders. And although we have contributed in the past towards, it's again the obsolescence factor. Things don't last and they have to be replaced. So it's a lot easier sometimes just to go out and hire the sound equipment or extra lighting than it is to purchase it.
And so their sound and lighting then would be to rent?
Some of it's for rent, yes, and some of it will stay in the building.
So some of it is capital, some of it is rental per production.
Okay, so that's built into that $2,000.
That's correct. Into the $2,000, yes.
Okay. And that, again, this is probably another topic for conversation, but I think that that's something that we need to, as a council, discuss with the EMCS Society with respect to sound, lighting, and venue, and just find out what are sort of set in stone costs. And again, that's a separate conversation, but thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for the presentation.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to say my name or anything at the beginning, but I'm Francis O'Donovan, and this is Andrew
President.
So,
thank you.
My apologies for not asking, so thank you for letting us know. Okay, next up is the Harmony Project Society of British Columbia, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Harmony Project Sooke. My name is Sheila Wincup. I've lived in Sooke for a little over 40 years, and I'm so delighted that such a project has taken root in our community. And I'm pleased to be able to serve the project by sitting on the board. And with me is Paul Martin, who is the treasurer for our project, and hopefully he'll be able to answer questions you might have about our budget and costing. So we have a little PowerPoint presentation that we hope will be interesting, informative, and enjoyable. So which button? Okay. Oh, The green one? No, okay. Okay. So, So Harmony Project is a nonprofit society that provides free musical instruments and instruction to children in the Sooke area. We have 3 main points to present tonight. The first is that we are extremely grateful to the Council for funding us last year, which was our crucial first year of operation. And with your grant, we were able to buy 10 string instruments, which basically launched the project off the ground. And we've been pleased to acknowledge the district support in our brochure and website, and we'll hope to do more in future publicity. Secondly, thanks partly to you, we've had a very busy and successful year. We recently celebrated with a little cake, which the kids were very excited about. We're continuing to conduct a beginning strings class for students in grades 2 and 4, and also a drum class for students in grades 6 and up. Each class meets for 2 to 3 times a week, which is a huge commitment for the kids and their parents. And it takes place outside of school hours, so this provides them with a positive activity after school. The children have also performed throughout the year. You might have seen them at Sea Park's Family Fair, at the Santa Claus Parade, at the Mayor's Levee, or at the Lieutenant Governor's visit recently to Sooke schools. The third point we'd like to make is that we've now entered our second year, and another crucial year. It's not surprising, the kids just keep on growing, and our lead teacher reports that a number of students are going to need to move up to larger instruments. I didn't know. It was a real revelation to me that there are actually quarter-size, half-size, and three-quarter-size violins, violas, and cellos. So this year, we're asking the district to support us with $7,000 to purchase 9 larger string instruments, plus a curriculum book and some replacement strings. The service that we provide, the program, is free to all children. We encourage parents who can afford it to pay, but currently most of them are being sponsored by the project. Before we close, I think it's important to share a little bit about the rationale for this kind of learning. As you may be aware, there's growing research that shows how learning to play a musical instrument actually literally enhances brain development. And interestingly, this effect seems even stronger with learning music than with other arts. Apparently, the combination of hand-eye coordination, rhythm, hearing, and reading musical notation in effect sets off fireworks in young brains, and in old brains for that matter. And more than just research, our project feels validated by some fantastic feedback we're getting from the participants. This is a quote from one of the young drumline students who just loves the program. And the parents have sent some wonderful testimonials. They cite some pretty dramatic transformations in their kids. They're seeing huge gains in self-confidence and self-esteem, a sense of being part of a team, gaining a love for music, and for some of them, being able to make friends for the very first time. Maybe most importantly, they're seeing improved schoolwork and a change in their concentration. The child you see here, her mother reported how she had learned the importance of practice, because she would not be able to play her piece right if she didn't practice, and now she's practicing her spelling and reading. So we hope that you'll be able to help this project gain strength in our second year. In effect, we're basically a seed just growing, and your support would help us to build an inventory of instruments to keep the current students in the project, and hopefully we can offer a new class for younger students. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation and for the work that you're doing in our community. Questions from councillors, please? It was great to see them here for the levee, and it's a very unique opportunity. Councillor Loggins, please.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. it's 100% true. Music is excellent for everyone, and it's not something that kids get to experience these days as much as I would hope that they get to. So thank you for organizing this project. Looking at the budget, we have 0 confirmed funds, if I'm correct.
Well, for this year, we've the TD Music Counts. We've received $26,000. It's got 70 on our budget here, but it's actually 26, which was paid for the drums. So on the instruments, you can see that we've budgeted for 33,000. 26 of that is for the drums, which has already been paid. So that leaves a difference of 7,000, and that's the grant for the new instruments.
That makes a lot more sense. Thank you very much.
Okay, anything else? Excellent. Thank you very much for attending this evening. Okay, next up is Zero Waste Sooke, please.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors, I should say. Jeff Bateman, 7083 Briarwood Place. Good evening. I'm making this presentation tonight on behalf of Wendy O'Connor, who's in Victoria tonight leading a band concert featuring a group of 50 young cadets she's been training. Wendy is the coordinator of Zero Waste Sooke, which is an autonomous working group under the umbrella of the Sooke Transition Town Society, of which I'm the president. I could begin by first thanking you for the seed funding that this committee gave us last year, the amount of $500. It allowed us to create a website, a brochure, and some advertising materials for one of our events last year. It was a busy year. We did workshops for children at the Sooke Library, a street cleanup, downtown Sooke, community open space event at the community hall. We called Talk Trash. We also had got the mayor to confirm Waste Reduction Week in Sooke in October, during which Wendy went to John Muir Elementary School and organized a waste audit. We also got a plastic reduction campaign underway. We've got for 2016, we're seeking funding to help us out with 4 events, 2 Sooke repair cafes, a cleanup of Sooke neighborhoods and illegal dump sites on Earth Day, April 22nd, and a workshop visit by the Victoria Compost Education Centre. So I suspect you're aware of repair cafes by now. These are free events at which local residents are invited to bring broken household items to a central location where they can meet with volunteer repair people armed with all the expertise, tools, and materials to make these repairs. As a result, a wide range of items, clothes, furniture, electronics, bikes, appliances, toys, etc., can be returned to working order rather than being junked in the landfill. It's a rather radical idea in an era in which we're all encouraged to toss our malfunctioning household items and buy the latest, greatest, newest version of same. So these repair cafes were launched in 2009. There are a number of them now happening on the South Island, regularly in Victoria, at the library and at the Fairfield Community Centre, in Saanich. Colwood and View Royal had its first and only so far repair cafes last year. So we feel it's Sooke's turn now, especially with the arrival of the new makerspace at Edward Milne Community School. We've already purchased the license from Repair Cafe International, and we're lining up local fix-it specialists to participate in coordination with the makerspace. Secondly is the Earth Day cleanup, which we're calling Team Up to Clean Up. It would involve a litter blitz of local streets and dump sites. This will be Zero Waste's 4th street cleanup since the group launched 2 years ago. We have some funding to help cover that particular aspect of our request tonight from the CRD's Community Cleanup Assistance Program. Finally, we'd like the Victoria Compost Education Centre to return to town. We've hosted them twice in the last 2 years, and this time they've now got a new policy of charging $100 to cover their travel costs. So we'd like the district to cover that expense. So I think primarily we're looking for districts' help in our advertising and promotion costs, primarily printing and design for these events to promote them, and advertising in our 3 local media outlets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman. Just to clarify, for the piece for the Victoria Compost Education, was it 100 or 90? This says 90 on your application. Would it be 90 then?
Could well be.
Okay, very good. We'll leave it at 90 as it's in print here. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. Sometimes you have an old favorite something that you couldn't even buy a new one if you looked for it. So it's nice if you can find someone who can get things in working order again. Questions? Councillor Loggins, please.
Sorry for so many questions tonight. All right. I do have one question. Thank you for presenting. Of course, I think the things that this organization does is great for the community, and it has been identified as something that's important to many people. My one question is if the repair cafes will be bringing in any donations or fees at the door or that sort of thing.
There'll be a donation jar. Yeah, we'll have a donation jar, as repair cafes generally do, but the key is that they're free. So everyone in town is invited to, because it's often our most vulnerable who can't afford the latest and greatest. So. Right.
And they may donate $20, they may donate to
maybe.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That was just, I was wondering, just because your net income shows a deficit of $100-ish.
Yes.
So
that would partially, Transition Sooke has a modest budget itself of about $3,000 at the moment. So we would be covering out of that funding. We also have plans to approach TD Friends of the Environment. They have a July 15th funding deadline, and that would allow us perhaps to get some money for the second of the repair cafes. We hope to have one in the spring and one in the fall. The spring one would happen at the community hall possibly, or in the lobby at EMCS, and the fall one would be at the Makerspace, which opens in September. We also think TELUS community grants are a possibility. Walmart Canada Community Grant Program, Van City Community Partnership Program, and the Victoria Foundation are all places we can investigate as we move forward.
Excellent. Councillor Berger, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So just to confirm, I just want to have little notes beside what I'm doing here. Your venue rental for the 2 repair cafes,
yes.
Where's the venue? Is that through EMCS?
I would think so, yes. I wish Wendy was here to tell me where she came up with that.
And so are they just I just thought for 2 spaces, I just thought it was relatively inexpensive, so I just was curious.
Yeah, I think if it was the MCS lobby, I think it's about $100 at most. Yes, thank you, Ebony.
To jump in, but the rental here is probably for the community hall. The Makerspace committee has a partnership with Zero Waste to offer these programs, so there's no fee for the venue.
Through the community hall?
Not for the community hall. So this fee would only be for the community hall. And then they have a partnership with the Makerspace, so there's no rental fees.
So the $250 then, sorry, Ebony, I just want to make sure I'm following you. The $250 then goes to the community association? Yes. Okay, thank you.
So that would be for the first of the 2 repair cafes.
Okay. Yeah. And then the Heartland tipping fee, that's for your cleanup day?
Yeah, and so CRD grant will be able to cover. We've got $1,000 down here, but in fact we'll be able to tap them for about $400, which will be for the Heartland tipping fee, for gloves, garbage bags, and supplies for the street cleanup on Earth Day.
Okay. So then, sorry, I think I might have a different. I'm just using the one off the our web agenda, so I'm just wanting to make sure I've got the right expense here, which is this one. So
Yes.
through the District of Sooke grant, then, just so I can put little
Yes.
marks by mine, you're asking for the venue rental, the $250,
Yes.
and the advertising.
Advertising for the, yes.
Oh, wait, that's
Poster
too much.
design, the cost to book the presentation, and the advertising for team cleanup. We figure $300 is about the rate to get an ad in each of our 3 media outlets.
Advertising for, sorry, Mr. Bateman, I'm confusing myself here. So your initial amount requested is $750,
Yes.
and that will be $250 for the rental venue, and then $500 is coming from poster design. You have $200, so then we leave $300.
Yeah. So these are our expenses. We're seeking $750 towards our expenses, right? So we're seeking a head start.
Sorry, when you were breaking it down, I was trying to wrap my head around which was which.
Yeah.
Which one? Okay. So just in totality.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from council? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bateman, and for taking the initiative on these projects. So that brings us to the Sooke Community Choir. Oh, sorry. Please turn on the microphone, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Tate and councillors. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Sally Titchkowski. I'm the president of the Sooke Community Choir, and it's been my pleasure to do this job now for 3 years. I'd like to introduce Phoebe Dunbar. I think it's probably not necessary, but she's our director in charge of granting. And on the chairs over there, it's Sheila Wallace, and Sheila's our treasurer, and she'll be available if you have any questions about our budget. Just briefly who we are. We're a mixed-age choir of up to 60 singers. We rehearse weekly and perform about 14 concerts a year, mostly at our home, the Sooke Community Hall. We also perform at special events in the community, such as funerals and openings around town. We'd very much like to thank you for your past support. Through your support, we've been able to purchase a fitted cover for our grand piano and also some specialized professional lighting to make our shows stand out. And we've been happy to acknowledge the District of Sooke in all our programs and on our website. Through the success of the choir and the incredible support of this community, including the Rotary Club, we've been able to support and mentor a number of our youth, including one 19-year-old who's actually on our board of directors, which is pretty exciting to us. As a choir, we're strong supporters of the community, and we're pleased to have been able to paint the stage area in the community hall. We brightened it up, painted the outside for all of the community users, and we did that with help from the Sooke Philharmonic. We've been able to acquire a grand piano to place into the community hall from a community donation, and we've been able to house that piano in a protected box with support from the Sooke Lions Club. Our request today is we would like to ask you to support us and our members with a $2,500 grant to buy sheet music. Our artistic director was hoping to be here tonight, but we have a rehearsal tonight, so he's busy teaching. So I'd like to just read a little quote that he wrote for us about how he feels about sheet music. Beside the wonderful singers in our choir, the most valuable asset the choir has is its music. The cost of our music represents a substantial part of our budget. We can and do draw from our music library for pieces for each concert, but we need to purchase mostly new pieces to keep our concerts fresh and alive, both for our audiences and for our singers. By funding our sheet music costs, you would be making a substantial and worthy investment in our organization that serves and benefits many. Phoebe, would you like to?
How much time have we got left? 2 minutes. Okay. So when we came to the briefing with Gabriel, and some of the other staff here, we were told what was really, really critical was to talk about a lot of the benefits, but there's really not time to do that. But we did make sure when we filled out the application that we did go through a lot of the benefits of the choir. And as you know, the choir has been in existence since 1989. But to get back to the music, some people, they probably are not that aware of how expensive music is. And Sally and a few of the folks today just did up some of the costs. One piece of music, most concert series, we perform about 14 to 15 pieces, songs that is. And then this particular year, we're looking at 3 seasons because we're doing a special development of a program in June for Canada 150 performances here in Sooke, including the big one down at the Flats. But every piece of music you purchase, and you can't copy them because of the infringement for copyrights, costs anywhere from $150 to $450 per piece. So although in our budget we did put down that we would like to spend $3,000 towards music, actually our expenses are $2,400 per season if we get the music we would like to get. But so you may well ask, well, where are we going to pick up the shortfall? And a lot of that it will be covered in some of the sponsor event sponsorships we seek, and some very special funding. But it is incredibly expensive. And I know as one person who's new to the choir, I had no idea how much money goes to the music. And as we mentioned in our application, it's really quite an investment. So we're very pleased to be able to maybe just target this as something that we would really like to enrich our library, so we have a richer repertoire. And some of the people who we're approaching right now for fundraising, likely in our budget we didn't really give you much information where we get some funds other than in the financial statement that was attached, where we got funds last year. So really, it's all about music and a big asset. Did it max out?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But well done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from councillors? Looks very straight. Have a question. Councillor Loggins.
I always have a question.
Always have a question. That's good.
I just wanted to confirm if your BC Gaming grant was confirmed or not.
No, we have up until May 31st to put it in. And okay. I think we said pending in here, didn't we?
Yeah, I just wanted
yes.
to know if
and so
which cycle it was in.
Sheila and
so
I
that
hope
makes
to get
sense.
that in next week.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation today and for the beautiful sounds that you bring to our community at all the events.
Just to answer a little bit more of Councillor Logan's. Sally, how often have we got gaming grants? Like, there is a history that we get them, and sometimes there is some sustainability to those grants, but you can't always assume that.
Yeah, I was just going to congratulate it if you got it, and then I can move it over on here and wrap my head around it. But that's good. Okay. Thanks, Phoebe.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
So I believe that brings us to the end of all the presentations. So thank you very much to everyone for your preparedness and for staying on time this evening. And I'd like to thank Council for all the questions and for doing all the preparatory work. At this point, I'd like to just take a very short break, if I may, just allow for a few minutes, a health break, as you may call it, and then we'll get into our deliberations. Thank you. Okay, so we'll continue on. Staff is going to load up a worksheet for us. Okay, so here we are seeing the various groups listed with their requests listed, and this was based on what was submitted, right? Has there been any refresh or any changes through the presentations this evening?
No.
I think they're fairly consistent.
Your Worship, what's listed here is what they're requested here, and then on the far column is what you're going to award them.
Okay.
Our fund that's been budgeted, I have a statement here from our financial officer. He said if the grants exceed the $50,000 as budgeted for this year, Council may use monies from their contingency fund or increase taxes or both. And that's why you see on the side bar there, it's showing the tax impact if we do some adjustments. And currently the Council contingency has $35,000 for this year. A total of $8,165 has already been spent to date as an honorarium for the Santa Parade and the dedication costs for the Sorensen Station. So you have a balance right now of $26,835,000 in your Council contingency for 2017.
Okay, and the 525 was what we awarded. Was Council did that? I think at the last regular meeting for an event at Journey Middle School.
Correct.
Okay. Suggestions from Council. Councillor Ray, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. My position this evening is I'm not prepared to go over the $50,000 that's budgeted, so that's where I'm working from.
Okay. Any other comments from councillors? Thank you for sharing that. I'm open to going over the limit. I see every project contributing to the overall well-being to our community, so I'm being flexible, but that's just myself. So I guess we'll just start at the top and work our way down. I think just recognizing that we don't want to hit 50,000 and then, okay, well, there's no one, and forget the ones that come after, right? So you have to kind of keep that in mind that these are listed in no particular order.
Right. If I may, Your Worship, I would suggest that we understand that we go through in terms of whether we want to support for the full amount, a partial amount, and that we can at the end adjust as to make sure that just because you're at the end doesn't mean that we forego it.
Yes,
but it
of
allows
course.
that flexibility as we go through it.
Yep. Okay, so we'll just start on that note, and thank you, Councillor Ray. You spent many years chairing this committee, so I appreciate your input on this. So Meals on Meals had requested $5,000. Comments from councillors? Go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, they requested $5,000, but their budget shows a real requirement of $2,696.71. And so I believe that that's what their budget requires. I don't support going over that amount.
So you're recommending a $2,700.
$2,700.
Other thoughts from members of council? Is that a motion? I mean, we can make the motion and then table the lot, or just put up a recommendation and we'll make a motion at the end. Why don't we do that? Okay.
And then that allows that flexibility
It does.
for others
Yeah.
to say, well, let's go back and
Yeah.
we can give them.
Okay,
yeah.
let's start with 2,700. The next is the Student Art Bus Shelter. I strongly feel that this needs to be a line item. I mean, this is bringing it's a municipal shelter now. It has been redone by BC Transit, but it's a piece of municipal infrastructure. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. I agree with you, and I like that this is a shared effort between the school district as well as the municipality, but with the kids doing the art. So I would recommend the $1,210.19, and then within our budget discussion, I think going next year, then when we look at our budget again, we can try and make this one a line item. I agree with you. They've been doing it very successfully for the last 6 years or something. So.
Can we just put in the amount, though, of $1,211? The cents are going to drive me. Just keep it round, please. Thank you. And then I think what we did with all of our line items that we awarded this year is that this September they're all going to be presenting for the coming years. So I would like to have this group added to that listing, and then we can have them established as a line item in future years. I think that's good. Okay, Sooke Elderly Citizens Housing Society. The request, this was for parking and for the garden project. Councillor Ray?
Yes, this particular society's been around in our community for a very long time. It's supported our seniors at Ayr Manor. I would support the full amount, $4,000. They haven't asked for much in terms of all the years that they've been operating, so I think it's a great opportunity to support our elderly.
Okay, 4,000. Okay, the Philharmonic Society, we have the amount of 5,000. Councillor Ray?
As part of our notes, the Sooke Philharmonic are already receiving $5,000 this year for their 2017 spring fling. I'm also mindful of all of the amounts that they've had over the years, and so this is one of the ones that I'm not anyhow for the full amount. Given that my goal is I don't want to go over the 50,000, so I don't support this one at this time.
Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. And of course, going back and looking and realizing that we have, as a council, dedicated 5,000 for the spring fling. But if we look at their financial sheet for Harmony by the Sea, is what they're calling this production, it's only showing a deficit of 2,375. So I'd be okay with putting that in rather than the 5,000.
Okay.
And that puts them at a break-even situation.
Okay, I like the 2,375. Okay, Fall Fair Association, 2,000. It's the tents for the outside. I think it's a great project. It's needed for the well-being of the animals. There's sharing involved. 2,000. Councillor Loggins? Okay. The Greater Victoria Bike to Work Society, I think it's great that they're doing some local things. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. As a member of the past grant committee, we supported the Bike to Work Week for a number of years. I want to say 3 years. And in that time, we asked that each year if we could please get a celebration station in Sooke so we could increase membership, increase ridership, and just really make Sooke aware. And everything from that suggestion on went to the West Shore. So even listening tonight to know that Sooke is only 1% and the celebration station is going to be happening that they're excited about, but it's in Langford.
Yeah.
So I feel like even if I touch on her presentation in saying, biking 90 kilometers, well, we're 60 kilometers there and back. So the 1% I believe is real because we're just too far to commute. It would be fantastic if we could have a celebration station within our own park and ride to get people to, park and then ride with their bike. So for me, I guess I'm just a bit bitter and disappointed that we haven't gotten a celebration station in Sooke. So I'm not prepared to be supportive. I think if the next intake they want to come back, and if they're watching, come back and say, yes, have a celebration in Sooke where we could boast hopping on the bus with your bike and then getting off downtown and riding, then we could actually see something tangible happening in our community.
Councillor Loggins?
Thank you. Yes, we typically, I don't think, have supported programs that occur outside the community, and if it's happening in Langford, then we shouldn't be supporting it. Having said that, I would love to support something that happened in Sooke as well. I think that would be fantastic. And I know that the road is very long and too intimidating for most people to ride, but what a lot of people do in Sooke is they will ride to Langford, park there as the park and ride, and then they will bike that really treacherous part through the Colwood Crawl. So it does happen and it is important, but I also do completely agree that I cannot support this if it's not happening within our community.
No, I agree with that. I think I've biked to downtown, but it's a case of parking at Helmeken and biking from Helmeken on the Goose to downtown and back. And what I would like to see is more encouraging people to bike locally in Sooke to and from work. I like the comment of Wittich Environmental, but even something maybe through the bike club or whatever, like a local, if you are able to live and work in Sooke, maybe it's something the district could inspire. We could all take our bikes here, and but something that is truly local. Because the challenge with getting on the bus is you can only fit 2 bikes on each bus, and you're limited that way to get on, and that's what discourages people. There's the bike boxes and the like, but there isn't take-up because of theft and the like. But anyway, it is outside our boundaries, so we'll leave that one for now. Okay, Royal Canadian Legion. Now, I just want to draw Council's attention to our policy. It does have a $7,000 cap. However, amounts above can be granted provided there is unanimous resolution by Council to award more. Councillor Ray?
Yes, again, along the same lines as the Sooke Elderly Citizens Housing Society, the Sooke Legion represents, in my mind anyhow, those people who have fought for democracy in Canada. And I think that it's a time where they really do need us, and I would support the full $10,000.
Councillor Loggins?
I'll support it as well, and I was a bit back and forth on it, but I definitely do. I completely agree with everything Councillor Ray said, and just to add to that as well, they're not just serving a specific population, they serve the entire community, and they have facility rentals that fill our gap for not providing the community with a community hall, or community center, sorry, not a community hall, we've got one of those. So that helps everyone.
Yeah, and all the youth initiatives as well. So I think that's been well said, Councillor Ray. Okay, so $10,000 for the Legion. Sooke Music Festival, amount request of $5,000. Councillor Berger.
This one I love the idea of, and I would love to see any kind of festival get going, and multiple festivals get going within our community. But after listening to the presentation and then going back to our policy, it's in breach of our policy. Well, so point H states that no applicant can request funding for individuals, and the request was for music and bands and talents, and we can't pay wages, honorariums, or individuals.
I think that would be more if Sam, the band, the one-man band, came forward and asked, I want to give a performance, and will you fund me to do this performance? But in this case, where it's a part of an event.
Well, but the request was for, and this is my exact words I wrote down. I
For
love
talent.
the idea. I love everything about it. What weighs on me is just being mindful of our policy. And we can't pay salaries, we can't pay wages, we can't pay honorariums, we can't pay individuals. And then the other part that, again, I love and pulls at my heartstrings is Part L of our policy states that we can't fund, so to eliminate indirect funding, a grant will not be issued to an organization that in turn issues grants and gives money back. So as much as I love everything that you're trying to do, and I wholeheartedly, as a person, support it, it's in complete breach of our policy because they're giving it all away, which I love. But it pulls at my heartstrings because I think it's a wonderful idea. I think it's a wonderful event. It just doesn't fit within our policy of grant funding on both of those points.
Okay. Councillor Loggins.
Just speaking to point, is it an L? L. This is specifically issuing grants to other organizations, and they would not be issuing a grant whatsoever.
But they're giving all the funds away.
They're hiring a service.
Like in this case, the grant is to bring, the request to the district is for talent. For music performances. I think Councillor Berger's point is that the festival is intended to raise money that the festival then gives away. And that's where her concern is that it's breaching the policy because...
Which personally I love that, but I'm trying to be mindful of what our policy is.
I agree that this one doesn't sit right with me either, and I wasn't going to support it, to be honest, because of that budget. But I completely disagree that it's in contradiction to our policies. But I'm not looking to support it either way. So maybe we should discuss that with at another meeting to kind of clarify our policies.
Well, that's usually the case, though, because this point out, to eliminate indirect funding, a grant will not be issued to an organization that in turn issues grants to other organizations unless the applicant can clearly demonstrate to council's satisfaction that grant monies received from the district will not be used to fund grants to other organizations. But that's what we've heard. Councillor Ray?
Yes, and I think when I heard the example from where it went last year, I'm not so sure it actually went to an organization, but to families who could use it in the community. I guess part of my thinking is that if you're putting on something and you're looking to the district, which is taxpayer money, that there needs to be, if you want some money, then you've got to be planning for the future as well and not giving it all away, and that goes to what my question was. So I like the idea, but I'm just wondering if there was another piece of it. Myself, I'm torn on this one because I like the idea of a music festival, but I'm not comfortable using tax money to create it for them to give it away. So that's
well,
especially.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Berger.
Sorry, I mean, I was so trying to see how it could work in the policies and how I interpreted the policies, but then listening to Councillor Ray, when you look at the budget, and sorry, I'm jumping in, this might be what Councillor Loggins is going to say, is that it's still a deficit of 5,000. So the sustainability part is the piece that's going to be hard. Sorry.
I think for myself, what I heard in the presentation was that once they get going for a couple of years, they'll become eligible to access other funding sources, but they needed to have a few years to get organized. There has been a call from the community to have some sort of an event occur in August, which is a difficult time because it's typically when anyone that's volunteering wants to have a break and to take time off. So I thought it was great. We have a group now that's actually going to do something in August. I'm wondering, would council be open to funding a different portion of this? There's $850 for park use permit, business license, event insurance. Those are things we funded for other events in the past. There's St. John Ambulance, $200. There's any group that does anything, requires things like that. Licenses, generators, sound equipment, and the like. I mean, there could be pieces there that we could fund. And then I think as this group gets sustainable, they'll be able to start. They need a few years to get rolling. I'd just like to see us help get them off the ground. Councillor Berger.
Yeah, I see what you're saying because we have funded other events. I guess I'm just wrestling with the entire financial of it. I'm wrestling with the fact that having a deficit, I mean, they're asking for $5,000. The total expenses are $11,000, and there's still a deficit of $5,000. So I guess I just look to you guys.
But I do think, well,
I'm just troubled. I'm troubled with the financial part of it.
Go ahead, Councillor Ray.
I think there's something wrong with the numbers, actually, because they've got other revenues, estimated sponsorships and donations. They've got $6,000, and they're asking us for $5,000. That's $11,000.
Yeah, so that's why if ours is at the top, then their deficit at the bottom would only be $35, which isn't.
So I guess The question is it says estimated sponsorships and donations. I guess I'm wondering, is our 5,000 in that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. Just based on their last year's budget, it looks like they brought in over $6,000 in those items. So I think that's just a vision of last year.
Okay, so I think actually that they're pretty well. That there isn't a $5,000 deficit. 6,000 from what they bring in, 5,000 from there's the request from the district. That's the 11,000. I guess for myself, I'm if you take the park permits and insurance and the generator rental and sound equipment, it comes to 2,300. I'd be willing to look at 2,300. Provided that it goes ahead.
Okay. Well, the grant has to go, if the event doesn't have to go ahead, if the event doesn't occur, then the monies are returned to the district. Councillor Loggins?
I did want to remind everyone of the Sooke Harbour Festival that will be happening in August.
Okay, that's a Harbour. That's another one,
just
which
like
is
last
great.
year, so it will be happening again this year.
Yes, that's a Harbour
but this
festival.
one is great as well.
This one is in the park.
This one is a music festival, which is excellent. It is much needed, especially for the youth in the community. And I would definitely be interested in funding the 2,300 as well. I think that makes more sense than funding musicians based on essentially the fact that we denied the Bluegrass Festival of funding musicians for a certain amount as well. So this I'm more comfortable with.
Okay, let's put in 2,300. Okay, Juan Fuca Marine Rescue. There's a request for $7,000.
Okay, I'll be the bad person.
Councillor Ray?
When I spoke with the fellow, as their budget shows that they're covered for this year. And so we've given them a lot of money over the years. They didn't show a deficit, and I appreciate that there may be some give and take on that money. They also may make more money than that. So this year I'm not prepared to support any funds to the Juan Fuca Marine Rescue Society based on their budget.
Okay. Any thoughts from other members of council? Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. I am going to agree with Councillor Ray. I actually spent a ton of time trying to go through their budget and understand their 2017 budget with the other one that they gave us with the 2016 actuals. Everything seems sort of considerably up, like they're not reflective of their actuals, and then to still have a surplus and not be running a deficit sort of left me to think that I think it's fine, and we do that within our own budget. We say take our actuals and add your 2% inflation, or just go by your actual. So to see that they still don't have a deficit at all and don't look like they require funds on any of their financial, I will agree with Councillor Ray. And then looking through their grant application, it says that they hadn't received funds from the District of Sooke before, and we actually helped finance a boat to the tune of $20,000 at some point in the last 10 years. So I think that the fact that they're breaking even, have a little bit of money in the bank, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I would, at some point, it would be great, though, to receive a presentation on the work that they do in our community, and perhaps it's something we could do. I know that they provide incredible life safety service out on the water. I appreciate where council is sitting with this, but that might be helpful, and then to invite them back in a future year. Councillor Loggins?
I think that would be great, just to hear from them as well. And I agree that I'm not comfortable with the 6,000 the dedicated to operational due to the balanced budget, but I was wondering if council would be interested in supporting the 500 requested for recruitment.
500 for recruitment? That sounds like a great idea. Okay, we'll put that in and we'll move on. moving through this expeditiously. Okay, Juan de Fuca ground search and rescue, 4,000. We saw this as the in-between for the merino sweaters, which makes a lot of sense in our climate. The volunteers are already putting in both their time and about $1,000, I understand, for their full kit. Councillor Ray.
Thank you. They have 50 active individuals currently. They were asking for 80 to 90. So I would suggest, and they haven't been before us before. So for now, I would like to offer 55 at about $75 each, which would give us about $2,500, so that everybody who's with them and is active with 5 spares. And then if we want to, when we get to the end, I don't support the whole amount at this time. But at least make sure those that are active, said about 50, that they get them.
So that's 2,500. Councillor Loggins?
One thing I'm concerned about is the downloading, because this, when I asked the group about who funds their essential equipment, it is funded by the CRD. If this is being, if this is in fact also mandatory equipment, then I believe that's something they should be covering as well.
But none of their kit, like their jackets or boots or anything, is covered by the CRD. The CRD covers off their gas for vehicles, the place where they do training. It doesn't cover the boots or the jackets or anything that the volunteers wear. That's a personal investment in addition to time. So, and I think just given the climate, having merino wool in our climate is essential. So I hear what you're saying, but actually the volunteers already are having to buy this. So if it's downloading, then the CRD should just cover everything, including the jackets and boots and the like, but they're not. So it's, yeah. So let's put in the 2,500. Okay, next, DRS, Dialogue Resolution Services. There's an amount of 2,500. Councillor Ray?
Thank you. I believe that this is predominantly downloading. I'm
sorry. I'm sorry. That was a mistake. I meant to turn off my own microphone.
I know. So what they spoke about at one time, not the property aspect, but at one time that was my job, family services. And so I think that this is a provincial responsibility, and I don't think the district should be supporting it.
It is a provincial responsibility, like many other things within our community, that, and it's tough because then there's families that are not accessing anything as a result. Thoughts from other councillors? Councillor Berger.
Thank you. I agree. They came before the Grants Committee, I believe, last year, and we were very sort of polite in telling the lady that came that, this really is a provincial download, and it's paying for mediation sessions, which flirts again against our policy of paying salaries and things like that. And when you look at the over $300,000 budget that they have, this needs to be a clear sign back to our province that if there's a shortfall, the province needs to pick up the pieces. This can't be left to municipalities, because as soon as the municipalities start to pick up these pieces, then the download is just going to get greater and greater and greater. So I support not funding.
Okay, should we not fund this? I want to send a letter to someone to say, look, with this gap, I'm not, we'll have to look at which ministry in particular, but whenever I feel that we are being impacted in this way and how it's impacting our members of our community, I want to send a message back that we've received this, and this is how, and so forth. And then I always eventually get a reply and something that we can follow up on. But I know with our policy there is the wage component, which I see. But in this case, I don't want to just say, okay, well, we're not going to accept downloading. I have to take action in some way. So send a letter. Councillor Ray.
Yes, I believe actually there's two ministries involved. because of the children. The Ministry of Children and Family Services would be one ministry, but the family resolution, I believe, is the Ministry of Attorney General still. So.
Okay, so perhaps if staff can note that, then we'll I'll follow up with them and we'll send something back. Okay. Sooke Baptist Church, $7,000 for the garden project. So I think this is a great project. It's a piece of land that's been sitting idle for a long time that's going to be put to good use. The intent here is to help families find ways to get access to healthy foods. So it's different than having gardens where you create your own and it's for yourself. Although the Sun River Garden does have a Grow Your Own program as well. There has been a call to have another community garden in Sooke, more on the west side. So now there's one here. We have the one at Casa, and then of course the one at Sun River. They need to fence this, though, because having something that that is growing excellent produce is going to attract. It will draw in other animals, and I think having supply and giving the funding so they can get the project going and fence it is very important. So I say put in the 7,000. Thoughts from councillors? Councillor Berger, then Loggins.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree that the fence needs to be done. And again, just being a stickler for the rules, when I saw the pictures that in their presentation that they had already started on some of these projects, and our policy says that we can't pay for any works that already has been done, that, I don't want to be in breach of our own policy. So when I asked him to try and break it down, I mean, he probably thought I was being a bit of a pain, but I really wanted to get that number of what the fence is. I mean, we saw the raised beds done, we saw the allotments done, we saw work on the rainwater. So I believe it was 4,000. They already spent 800 on fencing, but they need another 4,000. So I would support the 4,000 to get that fence going. Okay. It's just hard for me. It's hard to tell what they'd spent on other itemized things, and I don't want us to find ourselves in breach of our policy. And I didn't want to be too cumbersome and say, "Can you tell me exactly, what everything is?" So I think I would feel safe in saying $4,000, get a fence.
Okay. No, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. I think it's the case when you have volunteers that are available. This is a project that's been talked about. Then they took the initiative and started to get going, and then our grant project timelines opened, right? Okay, 4,000 for fencing. Sound good? Okay, move on. The Sooke Community Choir Society, we have $2,500 request for sheet music. Something I never quite thought of was the expense of music. Councillor Ray?
I'm cautious, just looking at the amounts that we've given them recently. Funding, I'm just looking at the amounts that are left. Yeah, I'm just a little cautious getting up there in the numbers. There may be room to give them some. But I, at the same time, I don't want to be sending the message out that every time people, when you see some of the ones that have been coming over and over and over again, I just, hope that we have room for capacity. I said this at a couple of years ago with the community grants. Mm-hmm. And so I just don't want there to be a message going out that, if you come, you get. So I'm tossing this one, not tossing, I'm turning this one over. So what others have to say.
Councillor Loggins?
I'm kind of back and forth on this one as well. Based on our assessment criteria, it falls a bit lower on the list compared to our others, so I'd like to leave it for now and see how things play out. Yeah.
Okay. Sooke Food Bank. This one This is a difficult one for me because our policy is very clear in not covering travel costs. And this one is travel for a very important reason, for a very important cost. But our policy doesn't cover off any transportation, which would make this ineligible for that reason. Now, on the other side, I suppose the food bank for this request could be invited to approach council out of contingency because the grant policy would not apply in that case. Councillor Loggins? But we're sitting here as to deal with grants, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly it, is it doesn't fall under this. And perhaps what they get back from the conference, they will be inspired with ideas of programs or capital that they need this money for, and that would be perfect for it, but this cannot apply, yeah.
But we are sitting as council, so we can put this one aside, deal with the grants, and then we could consider doing this out of contingency, because we are sitting as council anyway. So
would just in terms of procedure, would we need to do an addition to our agenda? Because this agenda is about the community grants, so I would certainly move a motion to add an agenda item if that's what's needed.
I'll go to staff.
Your Worship, through to you. I would say that you wouldn't have to add it as a new item, as a direction from the financial officer was that you could, what your options were for the budget was that you could increase taxes or take it out of your council contingency. So that is an option that was presented in the regular part of the meeting.
Okay.
A comment?
Councillor Ray?
But just for clarification, though, I think the intent of that comment, if I may, was in terms of spending on the community grants, not anticipating that we would look at considering funding outside of the community grant process, which is what we would be doing. So,
no, through your Worship to Councillor Ray, I think that was the intention of the comment from the financial officer, was that if you decided to, you could make funding out of council contingency on certain occasions.
Yeah, because we are sitting as council. So, yeah, I think that stands. Okay, so we'll come back to that one. In this template, it must be zero. And because this is dealing with the community grant category specifically. Okay, Sooke Bike Club for 2,000. Councillor Ray?
Again, their budget actually shows a requirement of $1,434.52. So I would suggest 1,435. So there's no coin on the end.
Okay, 1,435. Okay, and I think that when you asked the question, that was confirmed back. Councillor Berger?
Yes, thank you. My only concern with this one was that it seemed to be all of the comments and funding would be required for the Sea Park land, and I just feel like that should be directed to the Sea Park board. It was in our strategic plan when the pump track, as a member of that board, it isn't within our plan to develop a smaller track. It just hadn't been itemized in what year that was going to be in the capital.
Okay.
It actually might, so I shouldn't speak. I don't believe it's in this year, but I know that was part of the overall plan when the bike park plan was done. So I just feel like there isn't a need to fund it through this. I feel like this should actually be at the Sea Park table.
Okay.
Because it is their land and it is part of the Sea Park Bike Park.
That is true. It is all on Sea Park land.
Yeah.
And
actually, I think to be a stickler for the rules again, I think there's something about government to government something. Yeah. So anyhow, without getting to be a stickler for the rules, I think that this is most appropriate at the Sea Park table. So I think a letter back to them would say, please come to the next Sea Park meeting, and then we can look at the budget throughout Sea Park and see where the next works will be done.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because also in order for them to go ahead, they would need to have permission from Sea Park to build out those trails. Yeah. And Sea Park does have its own budget for those lands. So that makes good
sense. And if I
sense.
can just jump into, I think that when the bike park was built at Sea Park, I'm almost certain, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm almost certain that there was provision for an easier track in the location that she's speaking of. So I think that that's already on the books somewhere. I just feel that it would be most appropriate to go to Sea Park and speak to them about the development of that.
Yep, no, that makes good sense. Okay. Sooke Harbour Players Society in the amount of $6,000. Councillor Loggins?
I just wanted to clarify with the sound and lighting. There is a group called the Thugs, which is awesome, the theater user group, theater user groups, and they meet to decide who uses what and what is for the community and what is for each individual organization. So in terms of the sound and lighting, if they were to rent or purchase any additional pieces for that, it would be for their purposes above and beyond what the community provides to them.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Berger.
Yes, thank you. In looking at the budget supplied, it shows a deficit of $4,500, and in talking to the presenters, they indicated the sound, lighting, set, and props was the need, and that actually works out to $4,500. So I will say $4,500.
Okay, let's put in $4,500. Okay, Harmony Project Society of Harmony Project Society of BC, $7,000. This is to acquire large instruments. We've seen the success of their first year, which is awesome, and bringing in other pieces for this coming year. Total budget of $54,000, looking for $7,000. I say put in the $7,000. That always raises hands. Councillor Ray, then Berger.
Ashley, you know, I think this is this project is really encouraging young children to get involved in music. I think if you look at the research, it's only a benefit to children. You know, so I don't mind supporting the full $7,000 this year. I just hope that again that they don't think or expect that every year we're going to build their ensemble of instruments, but I would support $7,000. I think they're trying to get off the ground, and so I'd be okay with it, and we have the budget.
Great. Councillor Berger.
I agree. I'll state that first. This group has actually been such a wonderful and patient group. They've come to the Community Grants Committee numerous times, and a few years back we actually couldn't fund them because they weren't a registered society at that point. And they've always taken after school kids, and I believe they've had over 10 to 15, and they've really come from, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but they've really come from nothing, and they've just created this wonderful after-school program for the kids. And watching how they've grown and developed and how they've helped the kids through musical instruments have been wonderful. Once they finally registered as a society, that's when we helped them get started with instruments to get these kids going for strings. And what I liked about the presentation is that the kids that have grown with them are now growing out of them. So with the new purchase of instruments, we can get a whole new younger class in, and it really can keep going and evolve. Yeah. So I support the $7,000.
No, that's great. Thank you. I think music is so important to have in your life. Everyone can play an instrument. You just have to figure out which one it is. Okay, Zero Waste Sooke. $750. So that's for a couple of projects. Councillor Loggins?
I will support the $750.
Okay, $750 it is. Okay, so we wanted to go back to something. That was to the community choir.
I'd also like to go back, if we could, to the church.
Okay, so Baptist Church.
Yeah. I'm just wondering. I see this more as a broader community. so I would certainly look at funding it a little closer to what they were asking for along the, so just go back.
Request, okay.
So their funding request was for 7,000.
Yep. 6,000?
Yeah.
Okay, but let's put in 6,000. And I think we should put in 1,500 for the Community Choir Society. Actually, let's make that 2,000 and see what happens.
That's good. Don't have to spend it all.
Let's move on. Where else can we? Just seeing if you're paying attention to me.
I'm paying attention.
I know you're paying attention to me. Okay, Council, what are your thoughts here? That's been moved and seconded to move these as a block. Any changes? What made us drop the Philharmonic to $23.75? Can you please refresh me on that?
Because they were already getting 5,000 this year.
Oh, because they got the funding already for the fling. Okay.
I mean, the only other one, if anybody wanted to do, was the music festival. If they wanted to add a bit more, there was other areas in that one that could have been covered.
I think we should add some to the music festival. It's been moved and seconded, so someone would need to propose an amendment. Otherwise, it stands as is. Okay, so any further discussion on the block as it's presented?
Okay, I'll move an amendment then.
An amendment is being proposed. Councillor Ray?
Just let me pull it. Trying to find where it is. To the Legion. Thank you. I've gone past it.
Excuse me.
If your paging is the same as online.
I would recommend they have a porta potties and security fencing of 500 and a licensing for 110, so I'd add 610 to the amount.
Can we just say 700?
Okay.
So make it an even 3,000. Thank you. So there's an amendment to have the Sooke Music Festival funded to 3,000. Is there a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Loggins has seconded the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment to the Sooke Music Festival? All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? None opposed? So now we have the main block as amended. Any further discussion, Councillor Loggins?
I will support this, but I am not 100% satisfied with the Sooke Baptist Church application, and that would simply be because the program itself seems really unsustainable and financially irresponsible to start a project without having established funds that are necessary to continue. So it does put us in a position where we're kind of forced almost to give them a fence. I 100% support what they're doing and the initiative they have to do it, but jumping the gun a little bit. And I want to have faith that it will work out, so I will support this, but I do really hope they're listening and take caution that they get their finances in order.
Okay. Councillor Ray?
Yes, and I totally understand. I think the years that I was on the Community Grant Committee, we found on many occasions people coming before us looking for sort of seed money. It is, you're right, it's a risk. But we've seen such things as like even the Harmony project, how well it's starting to go. So I totally agree. It does feel a little risky.
Sorry, that's not what I'm saying at all. I completely support seed funding because then you build your budget. They skipped that step and have not searched for seed funding and are jumping in and spending money without having a budget in place. So it's a bit different from having the seed funding, which I completely support. And that's just what I just wanted to send that caution out to them, that's all.
No, I appreciate where you're coming from. I think it could just be a timing of things, and but I just think it's a great use for the property, and it's great to see this initiative occur here. So I think perhaps it's just the timing. It's obviously been in the works since last year, and then our community grant application process opens. So it's like, okay, let's apply for that grant because we would fit in this case. And I've seen that happen with our grants before. So I appreciate where you're coming from, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so on that note, I'll call the question on the motion, please. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Okay, and now would council like to, do we need, this is the motion that we need to pass, is that?
Yeah, through your worship. We would like some direction to staff so that we will have the financial officer included in the amendment of the budget, if need be. It'll actually bring down the percentage, as you saw, a little bit.
Okay, so this motion then that council directs staff to include in the 2017 to 2021 5-year financial plan budget the new total amount allocated for community grants. That's been moved by Councillor Ray and seconded by Councillor Berger. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Now, would council like to consider another motion? Councillor Ray.
Yes, I move that council fund the $700 for
$750. Thanks. $750. Is it $750? Or you're right. Sorry, $700.
$700 for. She gave it to
I would just say Sooke Food Bank.
Okay, for the Sooke Food Bank to attend the Calgary event, and that the money come from council contingency.
Okay, that's been moved by Councillor Ray and seconded by Councillor Berger, and this would be that the application for the Sooke Food Bank be funded from contingency as it's presented. Any discussion on the motion? I think in this case, we could ask then that after, would council like a delegation, just a presentation as to how the conference went, what was learned, what we may see occur back here in Sooke? I think that may make sense. Just a 5-minute delegation following that. Okay.
Do you want that as part of the motion?
I think it should be in the motion.
Okay. So that the amount of $700 for the Sooke Food Bank be funded from council contingency and request a delegation to report back to council.
I'm just reminded in the past when we funded some things for the chamber, we wanted to hear back, we wanted a report back. I think that's important. Okay.
Yep, that's good.
That's good for both the mover and the seconder? Yes. Okay. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Any other items? Well done, everyone. I think what I liked about this evening was the opportunity to hear from the groups about what they're doing, their accomplishments, their history, where they're at. It gets your mind thinking about other ways, perhaps, that other opportunities available to some groups in some cases on what they're looking to do. So on that note, I'll call for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor Loggins, seconded by Councillor Ray. Thank you, everybody, for your time. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.